And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. It is February 23rd, and we are jam-packed with plenty of action for the next 2.5 hours here on Hoopsville, and lots to talk about. We are dealing with conference tournaments now either in action or about to start. Of course, the UAA doesn't have a conference tournament, but certainly goings on there as well. Bubble teams will be affected. We will have certainly... look at regional rankings. This is that week now where teams are jockeying their last chance to jockey for positions and to try and make the NCAA tournament either as an automatic qualifier or as a pool C. There will be upsets. There will be teams whose bubbles have already popped. And so there's lots to talk about across Division III. We certainly are glad that you have chosen to take some time out of your night to join us, whether it's during the closing ceremonies at Sochi, now that they're officially on air on NBC, or maybe it's during the rain-plagued NASCAR Daytona 500. I haven't seen a lick of that race. Whatever the case may be, we appreciate you tuning in. Of course, you could be watching on the archive on a Monday, and we certainly appreciate that as well. Couple programming notes. Let's get out of the way first and foremost. We'll certainly remind people about these along the way as well. Thursday and Friday, we will be in, or even Saturday, we'll be down in Salem, Virginia for the ODAC Men's and Women's Basketball Championship Tournaments. That means we will have two special Hoopsville shows. Thursday and Friday, though not at our normal time. Thursday's show will approximately start at 11 o'clock Eastern Time and lead up to the start of the women's broadcasts. On Friday, we will do the same, 11 o'clock start time on the men's side and lead up as well to their tournament action, their quarterfinals, as it were. We will have live guests while we are there at the Salem Civic Center. And, of course, we will also be talking with those via the phone as conference tournaments and other teams position themselves and get ready for the NCAA tournament, etc., and get ready to figure out where they may sit or don't sit. So that is coming up Thursday and Friday. Of course, we'll also be down there and conducting interviews with those who have won, maybe some of the upsets as well. As you always know, there's upsets in conference tournament action. A week from today, we will go on the air at 6 o'clock Eastern Time and be on the air at least 4 hours, if not longer. It is our what we proverbially call the Selection Sunday show, normally because we got to find out who was in and who was out of the NCAA tournament on Sundays. That will not happen, as it hasn't for a few years now, but we will certainly prognosticate. We'll talk to some more teams maybe on the bubble. We'll also maybe talk to some teams who are surprises to get into the NCAA tournament, maybe an upset in conference tournament action. Then on Monday, a week from Monday, March 3rd, we will have our Matchup Monday show, bracket show, whatever you want to call it, after the NCAA talks about who's in. We will talk about who's in, who got left out. We'll talk to the committee chairs as well. That's all here on Hoopsville. To follow along with our schedule, make sure you follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville and the hashtag Hoopsville. Also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. That's how you can interact with us. You can also ask us questions or ask our guests questions via those methods. You can also email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Feel free to email away. We will certainly keep track of what many of you may have to say, and we certainly will look forward to what you may ask us or ask our guests or whatnot. There's certainly plenty to talk about. We certainly we hope you would take advantage of those opportunities to interact with us. Let's talk about what happened in the past week before we get to who our coaches and guests will be today. First, in the top 25 on the men's side, quite a few games that have caught me or certainly made me go, huh. It was a bit of a quiet week leading up, but the weekend was busy. St. Thomas lost yet again to St. John's. If I'm not mistaken, that is a sweep. I don't remember the last time St. John's swept St. Thomas. If I'm mistaken on the sweep, I apologize, but my memory is pretty darn good. Whitworth took a loss on Friday to Lewis and Clark, 73-70. That's a surprise. Certainly puts Whitworth in a bit of a bind. We'll see what happens down the road with them. They're going to have to win the conference tournament to make sure they get in. I think any chance of getting a Pool C out of the NWC this year, though, was pretty much done. Brockport State lost earlier this week to Oswego State. Of course, all the questions are about their best player, Ivy, and what the latest is. I have not heard what his status is. Don't know if he can continue playing or not. Brockport State certainly a different team without him. SUNY Purchase lost to St. Joseph's. That's their second loss of the season. First in conference, and in my opinion, not a good loss, considering SUNY Purchase was number one in the regional rankings, and we already know this, and here's a problem we're having with the committees, in my opinion. Purchase is one in the region, three losses better than Richard Stockton, but we saw Wesley slide behind, Cabrini slide behind Scranton in the Mid-Atlantic with a weak SOS. Granted, I don't think SUNY Purchase is as bad, but we'll see what happens there. That could be tough for SUNY Purchase. Texas Dallas losing to Mary Hardin Baylor by 4 this weekend. That's certainly an interesting development there. Mary Hardin Baylor gets hot again. They could win the conference tournament. Remember, that's how they got into the NCAA tournament and all the way to the championship game last year. On the men's side, DePaul beat Ohio Wesleyan. That's another tough loss for the Battling Bishops. Can't say I can believe they'll stay in the top 25 with that. They're now 19-6, but I also think they put their Pool C hopes really in jeopardy. Rolls-Holman lost to Mount St. Joseph's by 8. That's a tough loss for them. Bowdoin lost to Trinity, Connecticut in a thrilling triple overtime game, 71-67. Plenty of talk about whether there was interference on the final shot. Not going to get into that because I couldn't tell on video that clearly. But that's a tough loss for Bowdoin. Wonder what it does to its Pool C opportunities. I think they're still okay, but losing in the quarterfinals of the conference tournament certainly doesn't bolster your resume with a couple more games. Dickinson lost to Franklin and Marshall, pretty much hurting Dickinson's chances at a Pool C. I still think they may be able to get it. I think they're just putting themselves in a bind here. I think they got to get to the championship of the conference, but we'll see what happens. Right now they're sitting 4th in the region. Messiah lost behind them. Stevenson is still winning. Mary Washington, I think, lost behind them, or is at least staying pat. Alvernia has been winning. Hood's been staying equal. So Dickinson might be okay, but they're certainly not doing themselves any favors. Geneseo lost to Cortland State. I think that hurts the SUNYX chances of getting 3 at-large teams in. Again, Geneseo 20-5 is good, but I don't think the East has a strong resume. But you never know. Oglethorpe, I think, popped their own bubble, losing to Birmingham Southern and Millsaps this week, giving up 75 points in both games. Excuse me. So I think Oglethorpe may have kind of burst their own bubble. The only team I think gets in is Center, and I think Center can even lose in the conference tournament because remember Pool C or Pool B is where the SAA sits, and I think they've got the data over Oglethorpe to be sure. Let's see here. Mount Union in ill-time lost to Wilmington. Dubuque lost, and they're all but done now. They're going to have to win the conference tournament to get in. We mentioned Messiah losing. They lost to Alvernia. I think that hurts. It fell them from number 1 in the conference to a tie, and I think the 2nd seed. St. Mary's, I think, now got to win the conference. They lost to Wesley. No surprise there. It was an overtime, but they're not doing themselves any favor with a 7th loss. They now would have 8 to get a Pool C bid, and I think that's risky. I think we'll talk to Milwaukee School of Engineering's head coach coming up, but I think their loss to Edgewood may have popped their own bubble. Christopher Newport, I don't think, can get in. On the women's side, how about DePaul losing? Number 1 team in the country, 58-game winning streak over Ohio Wesleyan women's basketball coach. On later to join us about that. Christopher Newport, number 14 team in the country, losing to a good Marymount team, but by 14 on the road. I think that's an interesting development. It allowed York to be the number 1 team in the CAC women. Ferrum lost to Greensboro, but they played 4 games this week. They rallied back to win the rest, but that loss to Greensboro certainly is interesting. Williams lost to Bowdoin. I think that's an oucher. Williams now lost 3 out of 4 on the women's side. Whitworth enters the top 25 and then unceremoniously loses 2. Whitman defeats them, no surprise there, but then Lewis and Clark gets them. I think NYU is really struggling with injuries right now. They still may make the NCAA tournament, but they lost to Rochester today. Wheaton lost to Illinois Wesleyan, though nothing really surprising there. So top 25, certainly a lot going on. We already have teams that are on that proverbial bubble. How that all plays out is to be seen. Let's quickly talk about the guests that will be on a very jam-packed show here today. First and foremost, sorry, I just realized I am missing a piece of video we wanted to get on the show. So if you can forgive me while I do 6 other things at the same time, we like to make it challenging. Rhodes, number 21, Rhodes women's basketball coach Matt Dean will join us here in a couple of minutes. They just won against Center in overtime today to improve to 21-3 overall. Emory men's basketball coach Jason Zimmerman will join us, talk about bubble team. They have a really good resume. Is it going to be good enough to get them into the NCAA tournament? Because they certainly aren't going to win the UAA. Washington University of St. Louis has wrapped that up already. Lyndon State's men's basketball coach Joe Kinsky will join us. They're 12-13 overall, but they're 12-6 in the NAC, and they may be the sleeper in that conference. We'll talk to him about why he's decided you got to go out there and just get the best possible opportunities for yourself in out of conference. We'll talk to him about that coming up. I think it's a fascinating conversation, to say the least. Lyndon State, we mentioned Wheaton, Mass. Women's basketball coach Melissa Hodgegden will join us. They're 19-6, having just lost. They're really on that bubble now, to say the least. Wisconsin Stevens Point's women's basketball coach Shirley Edgar will join us. We'll talk about her bubble chances at 16-9, their first sub-20 season in a long time. Also talk about getting ready to host the women's Final Four this year. Ohio Wesleyan women's basketball Stacy Lobdell will join us. Again, that big win over DePaul will be the topic of conversation, but also their bubble chances. Baruch women's basketball coach Mley Joseph will join us. They're in decent shape, but not great. Do they have to win the conference in his mind? And then Milwaukee Engineering's men's basketball coach Brian Miller will join us. They are officially on the bubble, and their bubble may be really tough. We'll see how he thinks that will turn out for his team down the road. All of that coming up here on Hoopsville, and we hope you'll stay tuned for all of that. One of the things we want to kind of feature tonight is there's a couple pieces of video that have come out in recent weeks that are certainly wonderful tributes of Division III. One of them had to do with a senior night. As we've all, in the last couple of weeks, been seeing a lot of senior nights. This one was out of Albright. If you did not get a chance to see it, it is worth watching. Megan Boyle being honored in her final home game as a senior, and she got a surprise from her brother, who was visiting or who has just come back from Afghanistan. Check it out. A wonderful moment there for Albright and senior Megan Boyle as she was surprised by her brother returning from Afghanistan on her senior night. Certainly made it emotional to begin with, being a senior night, but then, of course, to get that opportunity. Hats off to Megan Boyle. Hats off to the surprise. Certainly a great way to pay tribute to a senior there. And hats off to her brother for serving us here in our country and, of course, overseas, protecting our freedoms. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into our guests and talk to them and talk about what is going to get them into the NCAA tournament, or if they think they're in already. Most likely, if you know many coaches, they're going to tell you they have no confidence that they're in already, but we'll get them on the Hoopsville hotline nonetheless and find out from them. Coming up, we'll talk to Rhodes women's basketball coach Matt Dean on the bus home from Center, where they escaped with a 1-point win today in overtime. We'll talk about his chances coming up. If you got questions for our guests or for myself, especially in this last week of the season, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Of course, that's at the bottom of your screen, along with our Twitter information at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville, and of course on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on a Sunday evening, February 23rd. Hope you're enjoying your evening and getting ready for the final week of the regular season. Of course, a week from tonight, we'll be talking about who is qualified for the NCAA tournament. Those 42 bids in both men's and women's basketball, total of 84, will be clinched by Sunday evening. And we'll be talking about the 20 at-large bids on the men's side, 1 Pool B and 19 Pool Cs. And we'll be talking about the 22 bids on the women's side, 1 Pool B and 21 Pool C bids. We'll be talking about who may be in, who may be out. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also tweet us at d3hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're going to start things off by talking to one of the top teams in the country who's certainly been on the radar for many, many reasons, and they continue to impress and continue to win, and maybe have already clinched themselves an NCAA tournament berth, but there's plenty more to play for. So going to the Hoopsville Hotline, presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship Weekend in the city of Salem, Virginia. Matt Dean joins us from Rhodes Women's Basketball, the 21-ranked team in the country, 21-3 on the season. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Dave, thanks for having me. It's great to be on.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're on your bus ride home from Center, where you guys escaped with a 75-74 victory in a rather high-scoring overtime game, by the way, beating them 13-12 in the OT. I'm sure, knowing you're probably relieved that game is under your belt, but not the way you wanted to draw that one up.
Well, relief is an understatement. Center has just been traditionally one of the best teams in our league, and this year, no exception to that. If you look at their SOS, they played such a strong out-of-conference schedule. They took the fall, I believe, the 2 overtimes up here. Wendy Austin Robinson does a great job. Their kids today were great. We had them down 18 in the first half. They fought back. They took a 3-point lead. We tied it. We had 3 starters foul out, and in overtime we survived. And it was an instant D3 classic, Dave. That's how I would label that.
And as I said, just the way you drew it up. Certainly a lot is on the line. Wrapping up the regular season right now, number 1 in the conference is certainly important. 13-1 overall. You had that 3-game lead. You pretty much had that wrapped up before the weekend anyway.
Right.
Everything comes through you now. You get to take advantage of Mallory High Gymnasium. How important is it to go out there now and wrap up this conference and tidy it up, especially considering you do not have an automatic qualifying bid once again this year?
Well, it's paramount, because if you look at this last year, we weren't regionally ranked going into the last game, at Millsaps, so we fought hard to win a closely contested game there against a very good major squad. And, we didn't know till that last night at 24-3 if we were getting in on the Pool B. Now, this year, we feel like we've upped our non-conference schedule. We have some ranked wins. One of our best wins out of conference was against a very good Texas Tyler team down in Texas earlier in the year. And, we lost a heartbreaker to Ferrum in 2 overtimes, and they're ranked number 1 in the South, and we're number 2 right now. So, that's a quality loss if you want to call it a loss. But we feel like our resume is really good, Dave. We feel like, you never feel certain, but gosh, the win today has got to put us in good shape going into next weekend. 21 wins, 13-1 in conference. Our SOS is not great, but it's significantly better than it was last year. And we feel like we're a deeper basketball team, so we're really looking forward to the challenge. And, really to host your conference tournament. It's not necessarily playing your own gym as much as it is sleeping in your own bed, in my opinion. This is the 4th game in a row for us, back-to-backs on the road. We travel a lot in this league, and we're just excited to come home and play in front of our fans, Dave.
I was going to say, your SOS, according to the last regional rankings, is a 501. You only have 3 games versus regionally ranked opponents. Granted, I'm not taking into account this week in any capacity. Right. Are you nervous that SOS and that data will outweigh your outcome, even if you were to get all the way to the championship game, which means you only take a 4th loss on the season overall? Does that worry you in any way?
I think you have to be a little worried because just being on the committee before, that's one of the major categories they look at is SOS. And,
yeah.
I think I looked at your website. I think we bumped up to 505 after today, so woohoo, we bumped up to 0.04. But, the reality is, we're close to an 875, 880 winning percentage. We were 2-1 against ranked opponents. Now we're 2-0 against a center team that I think is well-deserving for consideration. It's been ranked before. They're a great ball club. I think, at the end of the day, I think we have a great resume, but we still have to, I keep getting told, you just got to keep winning. And that's the message to our kids when you're in a Pool B situation. Dave, it's no different if we had an AQ and we got upset the title game. Right. We may not get a Pool C. You know what I'm saying? So
yep.
You really got to go in there with the mindset that, hey, we got to win 3 games in 3 days. It's the old 1 game at a time, 1 half at a time, 1 possession at a time.
And, of course, the trick of it is you could go win the conference tournament and you're still in the bubble. This year.
Right.
That all changes next year when you get the AQ, and I'm sure that'll make things a little bit better. This team has played really well all season long. Again, the SOS isn't awesome, but you went out there and you did challenge yourselves in some areas. Maybe some teams didn't live up to what your expectations were. You've been rolling through conference. Your only loss in conference was to Millsaps. But when you do look at your schedule, and I know your location there in Memphis doesn't make it easy, but have you still have a little bit of your influence of the old SCAC. Are you hoping to start changing that a little bit and travel and get some teams maybe, or get some teams to come to you that are going to maybe help bolster that SOS in the future?
Absolutely. If you look this year, we went down and we played at Southwestern and at Austin and back-to-back nights. And, last year Southwestern won 19 ball games. And this year they played a much different, more difficult schedule and lost a couple games they probably weren't anticipated to, but they're still a very good team. And then, Brian Harvey, I give him a lot of credit, the head coach at Ferrum. He comes in to our Classic in Memphis. And, the fact that, we've reached out and had a relationship from being on the committee before, we know how important it is to do exactly what you just said. And, I give Ferrum a lot of credit. They travel 13 hours on bus to Memphis, and they come out and get a win at our place. They should be ranked number 1 in the South region right now. Then again, we also went down to Tyler, Texas, and Kevin's got a great squad, and we won there. So, to me, that's a really significant win. If you look at us as a bubble team, that's a huge win. They're leading the AFC right now, and they're in good shape, and we won at their place. So that's got to take some merit into account.
Let's talk about this team just a little bit. We got the honor of being able to talk to Lauren Avant back at the beginning of the season. One of those great stories of transferring from the Tennessee to play for you guys now in her 3rd year with you. She's the only senior on this squad. So this team has a lot behind it that can continue to improve. Though I know Lauren has brought a lot to the table, though she is the leading scorer on the team at nearly 25 points a game. But how much has she helped you set up what could be a successful program in the years ahead?
Oh, without question. You hit it on the head, Dave. I mean, she came to us 3 years ago when she left Coach Summit, and her best friend, Shirley Edgar, was playing for us at the time, and Shirley was, I don't know if you remember, she was top 10 for the NCAA Women of the Year. She didn't get it, 3 years ago. And that year we were 18-8. Lauren had some injuries, and she's really helped us create a different mindset in the locker room, and we walk on that floor. And I just think some of these young women that have played with her these last 3 years, they're really, they're going to continue to carry that torch. We have a lot of good players on this roster. Today, Lauren and 2 other starters fouled out, Maddie Goodrum and Simone Daniels, and we had some kids step up and make big plays in overtime against a very, very good Center College women's team. And I think we're built for a few years to come, too.
Of course, Simone Daniels averaging 15 points a game nearly, and she's hauling down 8 rebounds really a game. Avant holding down 7.5 on top of that. Don't want to take anything away from the rest of this team, but certainly, as our good friend Flip Brooks will point out, when Avant and Daniels are on target, this team is pretty unstoppable. Obviously it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the bracketing. It depends on some other things.
Right.
But how far can this team, do you think, realistically get in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I'll tell you this, because obviously, as you know, we have to get there first, right?
Absolutely.
And, next weekend we have to have a good weekend. But I think this team is really looking forward to the challenge of having another opportunity. We learned a lot last year. We won our first-round game. Even though we hosted, we were probably, because of location, the 4th seed in the pot. And we beat a very good Louisiana college team, turned around to play the storied program of WashU, and we had to lead with 2.5 minutes to go, and we lost a close game at WashU. So I think if we can get back in, we're a tough out, and I'll leave it at that. I don't want to give anybody any bulletin board material, but I think, I'll tell you this, I think we can play with anyone. And, whether or not we win that game, I think we're going to be a tough out.
By the way, I got to look at where you're sitting right now. Don't bother the bus driver too much, okay? I see you leaning in on him.
Photobomb me here, whatever they're doing.
Yeah, a great picture sent out of.
We got a little weather. If you saw that, Lewis is my driver, and he had a team shot today with the team after the win, so he's really fired up that I'm doing this radio interview right behind him.
Awesome. Matt, we've talked about your squad in the past. You've come a long way from that 9-16 season, 3 seasons ago. You're an average 500 team, for lack of a better description. Certainly, Lauren has helped. Her first year, 8-18. Her next year, 25-4. This year, you're 21-3. You talked about that being a big influence. Have you seen it in the recruiting at least, and been able to fill the ranks? The roster certainly seems to indicate that.
It has, Dave. I mean, we have a lot of kids. A lot of the glue in our teams in that junior class. I mean, Sarah Johnson, Natalie Goodrum, Danelle Todman, and Catherine Eckert, they stepped on this campus 3 years ago, and since they've been involved with our program, we're 64-15. And we're getting kids now that.
Matt, are you there? I think we may have lost you. Coach Dean, giving him a chance. You never know when the cell phone might come right back into service. No, we may have lost Coach Dean. And of course, again, Rhodes 21-3 overall, 13-1 in conference. We're not dropping the phone until we hear it drop, because you never know when the thing may come right back into service. I hope Coach Matt Dean's there so we can at least ask him that final question we always ask. But again, this team is sitting pretty nicely. Coach, are you there? Right, getting little bits and pieces from him there. Coach, are you back with us? This is what you do when you're a one-man band, by the way. You hold on to the phone call as long as you can. Coach, you there? I know, he's trying. Ferrum, by the way, a loss for them by 2 points back on the 30th of December. Of course, Rust was a loss on the 7th of December, probably not the best loss on their resume. Millsap's a tough loss as well. They've all been close, all within 2 possessions so far this season. Coach, I know we can hear you. I'm sure you're probably trying to talk to us. Can you hear us? He's there. We'll keep trying a little bit here to give him a chance to give his final word. But again, the win over Center, now they'll go into conference play. Coach Dean and Rhodes will host that. And of course, in that large bid is what they're not. Or that large bid is all they can play for. They are in line for the Pool B, which is important. And we did lose Coach Matt Dean, so we'll get going. We'll try and get his final word, maybe emailed to us, and we'll get that out to you as well. So I want to thank Coach Matt Dean and of course those at Rhodes. The lovely thing of technology, sometimes it will backfire on you, as you know, here on Hoopsville. But the congratulations to the Lynx yet again, wrapping up this SAA regular season with a 13-1 mark. Everything goes through Memphis, Tennessee, coming up this weekend. When we come back, we'll jump into some men's basketball. We'll stay down in the South. We'll go from Memphis, Tennessee, or really somewhere between Danville, Kentucky, and Memphis, Tennessee, and head on over to Atlanta, Georgia. We'll talk to Jason Zimmerman, men's basketball coach at Emory, about their at-large bids as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have any questions for us or our guests, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us at hoopsville@D3Hoops.com or Facebook us at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. When we return, Jason Zimmerman from Emory will join us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Every season starts with a hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 21st through 22nd in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, hosted by the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville here on Sunday, February 23rd. Appreciate everybody coming on. Coach Matt Dean again from Rhodes. We appreciate them being on the show. We will get in touch with him, maybe get his final word via email, if at all possible, as the team heads back from Danville, Kentucky and Center, where they escaped with a 1-point win in overtime on their way home to Memphis, Tennessee, where they will stay for the next week. Conference tournament wrapping up through them. If you have questions for our guests or ourselves, feel free to use Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us at hoopsville@D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We have plenty of guests ahead, and we'll jump into some men's basketball while staying down in the South region and talk to one of those teams who are officially on the proverbial bubble, though it may be one of the safest bubbles in the entire country. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline, presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship weekend in the city of Salem, is Coach Jason Zimmerman from Emory. The team is 17-7, are overall 9-4 in UAA play with a game left. Coach, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me. I don't like when you talk about safe bubbles.
I know. I said
we've been around there for the last 4 years. We've been milling around. We don't like safe bubbles. We like to be in.
Yeah, well, you can't be on anything close to the safe on a bubble. That is true.
That's right.
But I would say yours as close as possible. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first and foremost, 17-7 on the season, the UAA, I would say, was probably as good as is always expected, though maybe not as challenging as maybe as everybody is used to. The top race was over a while ago, it feels like, with WashU walking away with it and you guys sitting in second place. But how's the season gone on from your point of view?
Yeah, I think it was as challenging, if not more challenging, our UAA race. Now, who was going to win? I think Washington did a great job. They had seniors that they made some plays down the stretch. Like today, I know they were down 7 with 2 minutes to go to Carnegie, and they ended up winning the game. So they had some great senior leadership and had a great run through the league. And I think it's been amazing what they did in our league this year. But you look at everybody in our league. It's just everybody says it. It's coach speak, but our league is brutal from, the top team to the bottom team. You go in, you got to throw records out, and here we go. We just had a unbelievable, stressful weekend, and NYU and Brandeis in here, and it came down to last possessions, last 2 minutes, last minute and a half, and I think, 95% of our league's contests have done that. So we don't take that for granted. We love playing in the UAA, and it's the great coaches and players in the league that we enjoy competing. And to be 9-4 right now in our league and 17-7 with the schedule that we've played, we're excited, and I think our team continues to get better. That's what's exciting to me as their coach is, we've continued to get better. We've 5-1, I think, in the last 6, and we've had to play 5 of our last 7 on the road in our league, and to be able to come through that 5-1 right now with 1 to go, we're pretty excited about that growth.
Yeah, beginning of the season, you lost to Birmingham Southern. It wasn't pretty. Virginia Wesleyan got you guys at their place in the fish tank. Oglethorpe got you guys. Then Carnegie Mellon kind of surprised you back on the 17th. But then you had that stretch in what I call the rematch week in UAA play. You play 2 teams, then you play them again, whether it's home or away. You started with Chicago and WashU at home, then played Chicago and WashU on the road, and you came out of that 1-3. What was? I mean, that can be the kind of thing that can absolutely derail a train.
Yeah, I don't think we. I didn't think we had a great effort. Chicago at home, they couldn't get down here, so they had a tough travel day. We had to start the game at like 10 o'clock, and heck, 8:30 is my bedtime. I put my kids to bed. We started the game at 10, and they played very well and got us. And then Walsh, we competed really well against Walsh, and we had a chance to win and didn't. And then we went to Chicago, and the last 2 minutes we ended up winning that game. I thought that really propelled us into this last stretch, and playing WashU at home is always tough in St. Louis. But then we went, that was right in the middle also, Dave, of our 4-game road trip in the UAA. So we had 2 weekends in a row on the road. And we come out, you look at that, where we were 1-3 in those, back-to-back games. But we also looked at, we were 3-1 in that 4-game road trip. And so we were pretty excited coming out of that 3-1 in that road trip, losing to Wash. So, you mentioned those games early, Birmingham Southern at Birmingham Southern early in the year, going to Virginia Wesleyan, we were at Oglethorpe, and I just think that's made us tougher. We went to Christopher Newport in their tournament, and all of those teams were great to play us and schedule us, and it's just made us it's made us better on the road, and I think that's shown in the UAA play. I think we're 5-1 on the road right now in UAA, and that's really difficult to do. It's the best since I've been here, and it's the best that Emory's done on the road in a long time.
Of course, you can finish up on the road at Rochester coming up on Saturday. No UAA tournament, in case those are not familiar with it. It's all based on regular season standings, and WashU has wrapped that up. Supposedly, and I'm not saying supposedly, the number is certainly there. You guys have the highest SOS in the country at about a 601, give or take, how games have played out and changed things. Certainly SOS is pretty strongly important with the committees. That certainly makes it seem like you guys are pretty safe to make the NCAA tournament. How do you really feel about it? I mean, the tough part about the UAA is you really don't have a lot of things in your control.
Right, you don't ever feel safe unless you're like WashU now. They won the league, so they're safe. They're in. It's so you don't ever really feel safe. But I feel really good about what we've done with our schedule. You know this 4 years ago, I believe we were 20-5.
Yep.
and we're second in our league at 11-3, actually, behind Rochester, and we didn't get that Pool C bid, and we were really disappointed in that because I thought that team was playing really well at the time. And, we tried to make some changes in that SOS, and, I thought going in, I didn't know we were the toughest in the league. I thought we were maybe third in the country by those numbers, but I knew we were up there. And you look at some of the teams we play. I mean, first in their league, and not only playing those teams, are you playing them on the road and going to make you tougher. You don't really schedule for SOS as much as you schedule to make your team better to try to win your league, and that's really what we've done. And I think our guys have really been resilient in that fact. When you go 20-5 one year and you don't make the tournament, you play a game November 16th and you lose, and your guys feel like, oh man, we can't get a Pool C. And that's real, and to be able to go through our schedule like we have and be resilient, I think it says a lot about our team, and I also think it says a lot about our league and continuing to be successful in our league, which is it's our guys are really proud of and take great pride in.
Last year, you guys made the NCAA tournament. I know that was a thrilling moment for the team. You got to host a game against Randolph, won that one, and then got sent all the way to the Great Northwest to play Whitworth. But unfortunately, we're not able to stay with the Bucks in that game. How much is that experience? How much has that game translated into this year?
Yep. I think, again, being in that atmosphere, having that experience of traveling across country to play that game. We travel a lot when we play in our league, but traveling across country to play that game in that atmosphere, and the first time we've been in the tournament for a while here at Emory, that experience was huge for our guys, and I think it just motivates them to get back. We don't think Whitworth was very good that night, and we would have liked to have been better. And our guys want to have that feeling again, getting back and continuing to play. They're not ready to be done. We have to go to Rochester, one of the toughest places I think in the country to play a road game, at Rochester and Palestra. So we have to do that on Saturday. But our guys are looking forward to it, the challenge, and looking forward to get better this week. And I think last year's experience does, it motivates you to get back, and that's what it's done all year. And to now be one game away, and on that bubble, it was so to say, if people say bubble, to be in the mix and talking about our SOS and talking about, hey, this is what we think we've done. It's exciting, and to be able to do that 4 years in a row for our seniors is it's exciting. But we want to get in. we want to continue playing past Saturday. That's for sure.
The team's led by two seniors in Jake Davis and McPherson Moore. 23 points for Davis, nearly 6 rebounds a game, shooting 46% from the floor. Moore nearly 17 points a game, shoots 50+% from the floor. Michael Florin, 10 points a game, 9.5 from Alex Foster. Florin, of course, your top guard with 128 assists and just 44 turnovers. One heck of an assist to turnover mark there. But other guys like Will Trowick and Davis Rao have certainly stepped up. You guys seem to have a pretty deep team. How is it designed, do you think, for NCAA tournament play?
Yeah, I think those guys that you mentioned, along with Josh Shoddy, a junior, I think all those guys have had experience now in the NCAA tournament, and playing in our league just makes you, battle tested and travel tested. So, I think, Lord willing, we get there. I think we can have a good showing. Jake Davis for us for 4 years has been a special player for us. He's Friday night, he just became the winningest player ever in Emory history of the program, and he's our one senior that's been here for 4 years. He's a tremendous basketball player, and McPherson has come and for the last 2 years as a transfer and really added some dynamic to our team, a score to our team. But you mentioned those guys and other guys on our team. I just think we're really deep, and a different guy, a different night has won games for us and made big plays. And like tonight, Will Trawick makes this afternoon. Will Trawick makes 2 big free throws and makes a 3 in the corner and gives us a little bit of distance. Friday night, Alex Foster was big, and Michael Florin's got the ball in his hands all the time. So we just have so many guys that can make plays on the offensive end that I think we can make a little run here, but we got to take care of business on Saturday for sure.
Talking to Jason Zimmerman here, Emory men's basketball coach. Team is 17-7 overall, 9-4 in conference play. Seemed pretty well positioned to make the NCAA tournament. We say seemed. We'll find out in 8 days to be exact. Of course, Coach, you are sitting in pretty good shape in the regional rankings. At least that's got to make you feel better sitting there third. What's the message to the team? You got one game left here. How do you guys prepare, and what's the message to them for this game and beyond?
Yeah, sure. When we got beat at Washington at WashU, we kind of said, hey, look, we got to be all in here. We got to burn the ships and go after it here if we want to make the NCAA tournament, or really we wanted to finish second in our league. Like we knew WashU had clinched, and we wanted to finish second in our league. That was our goal, and that's continued to be our goal, is just to get better as we move on towards the end of the season. But now you got one game left, and going to Rochester, I don't think Jake hasn't won. Our seniors haven't won at Rochester. It's big for us, and we're excited about going up there and competing. And Luke does a good job getting his guys ready. But our message has been, hey, let's take one at a time. But this has kind of got to be like a tournament game. Like every one, the last four has kind of been like that. And we've had experience with that, Dave. Like the year before, we did the same kind of thing. We had to win our last four, and we ended up winning the UAA with our last four week coach champs. So we've been in that position before, so it wasn't something new to us. It's something that the guys and the seniors have really, had great practices the last 2-3 weeks to get prepared to play those games. And we practiced through snowstorms. Well, we say snowstorm down here.
I was going to say your term for a snowstorm.
We had a snowstorm,
We call it flurries.
That's right. No, that's right. Hey, growing up in the Midwest, I get that, But we have, we practiced through the week before the Carnegie Case game. We were out of school, and that takes some discipline to stay with, getting better, and when you're not in class and you don't have that routine. And the guys have really learned from the experience the first time and done a better job the last 3 weeks getting ready. And we're excited to get ready to play on Saturday.
Finally, WashU has that 4-game lead on you guys. Obviously, has this all sewn up, but they're on the doorstep of an undefeated season in conference, 22-2 right now. It's going to sound strange, but just how good is WashU?
I think they're really good. I think, like I said, they've lived on the edge the last couple of games here, and their seniors have just made plays. I didn't get to see today's game, but Buna at point and makes some plays doing at crunch time, and Klimek in the post, and I think Cooney's phenomenal, and Lucky and Burt. I think they're very good. Their starting five is as good as anybody in the country, I think. And it's funny that I say that because when they played us, their backups have made and their subs have made huge plays for them to win the game. So I think they're very good. I think they've had a couple games here, and it's tough to go through our league. Like Carnegie, I said today, I thought looked like they were up 7 with 2 to go, and gave them a run, and then WashU found a way to win. So I think they're very good at finding ways to win, and to do what they've done in our league is pretty special. So.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us, talk about your Eagles there down in the cold South. 17-7 again overall, sitting on the bubble to get into the at-large team, though many would like to write you in by pencil at least right now. Good luck at Rochester, as you point out. It'd be nice to get a victory up there for you guys, I know. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, just thank you for all you do for Division III basketball. It's always good to talk to you, and we appreciate all that you do with the website and Hoopsville, and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you, Coach. Good luck. Safe travels up to Rochester this weekend, and hopefully we're talking about Emory come a week from Monday.
That sounds like a plan to me. Thanks, Dave.
All right, take care, Coach.
All right, bye now.
My Coach Zimmerman joining us again. Appreciate him taking the time. By the way, speaking of final words, Matt Dean got back to us on Twitter. Says his final word is, as always, thank you for what you do for D3 basketball. We hope in 8 days from now our resume leads to a bid. Thanks to Matt Dean from Rhodes women's basketball. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk Lyndon State men's basketball. They are 12-13 overall, but they are 12-6 in the NAC. That's important because Coach Grupinski's scheduling is probably the reason for it. Find out why he decided that you got to schedule the best to be the best and to bolster your resume, why that could end up being very good for them coming up this week. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Coach Kropinski from Lyndon State and the NAC coming up next here on Hoopsville.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Sunday, February 23rd. We are a week away from the end of the regular season, so we're talking about teams who are bubble shape, or at least teams who are trying to position themselves for a run at a conference title. And if you've got questions for us or our guests, you can tweet us at D3Hoopsville or the hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us via Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville or join us on email, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. We certainly hope you'll take advantage of those opportunities, interact with us, and certainly get us any questions that you may have along the way. I'm going to switch up and go from Atlanta, Georgia to Vermont, Lyndonville, Vermont to be exact, and talk about to a team that maybe wouldn't jump out at you as being a team that could be a threat for the NCAA tournament, but in a lot of ways they could be very much a threat for the NCAA tournament. Lyndon State, 12-13 overall, but they are 12-6 in the NAC, and maybe some good scheduling has gotten them in a position to maybe make a threat here. And Coach Joe Kropinski joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline, presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship weekend in the city of Salem, Virginia. Coach Kropinski, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. Listen, this Hornets squad outside of conference, not great, but maybe that was by design. 0-7 against Western New England, Plymouth State, against Westfield State, and Vermont, obviously non-Division III Vermont. We aren't going to fault you for that. Springfield, Wesleyan, Middlebury. You went out there and decided, you know what, I'm going to go out and play some good teams. You're going to play Springfield, though we should admit that's your alma mater. You're going to go play Wesleyan. You're going to go play Middlebury. You're going to take on a Western New England or a Plymouth State, even if they may not be the world beaters. You went and challenged yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've, when I got here 6 years ago, we kind of decided one of the first things we did was to really try to, increase the quality of our non-league schedule. The school at the time was in a little bit of a, unique situation. We had left the NAIA a while back. They were kind of in no man's land there for a while, as an independent, going through the provisional status in the NCAA. And, I got here and we still had a couple years to go until we were a full member of the league, of Division III. And we were able to get into the NAC, which helped to get us some scheduling and play against some quality opponents. And then, but I think just to kind of show the school and the community and our players the direction the program we wanted to take it, and that we had higher expectations for ourselves. And we tried to go out and play, teams that maybe a little bit over our heads, or teams that would kind of jump out at people on the schedule and kind of attract some players. We tell our guys and the people that we recruit all the time is, we schedule that way for two reasons. One, I think, if you're a player, you want to play against the best players and find out, where you stand. And two, it gets us, like all coaches would tell you, it probably gets you ready for your conference schedule. And that's, in a league like the NAC, which is a good league, but, let's face it, not one of the higher ranked leagues in the country. It's, we're going to make the NCAA tournament by winning our league. And, I think, if we can help ourselves and go through, take some of those lumps early on and get us prepared to play those league games and bigger games here in February and hopefully into March, then that's what we were going to do. And by and large, it hasn't done too much for our overall record over the years, but we've had some success in the league, and I think we can attribute a good part of that to the schedule.
You guys are sitting in fourth in the conference. Of course, you're behind Colby Sawyer, Castleton State, who, by the way, unceremoniously gave you guys a 113-104 loss earlier in the year. Yep. And, of course, Husson, who's been rolling along. NAC doesn't get a ton of respect because the SOS numbers tend to be low. A team like Husson doesn't seem to have the same mentality as you guys to go out there and challenge themselves. Has there been conversations about the model you guys have and trying to improve the conference?
I think it's been more informal. I mean, I speak with, the league coaches at times. And I think, Husson's played some decent teams in the conference. Travel is really hard up here, as I'm sure you know. Getting games, I think what Jason was saying earlier, getting teams to play you, at home is hard. So that's been another thing we've had to do is go on the road to play a lot of these games. So I don't know, there hasn't been any conversation that I'm aware of officially at the league level. I think it's just been kind of some of us have gotten together, and I know Castleton plays a very difficult schedule, and, Colby Sawyer has traditionally. And, I think, like you said, our league may not be thought of as highly as some of the others. I think the top of the league, honestly, is pretty good. I mean, I think it's improved every year most of the years that I've been here, and, top to bottom, we're competitive as all leagues are, and I think some of those top teams are can play with a lot of teams in the region, and just have the opportunity to do so.
This team does not have a senior on it. This is a young team full of juniors, especially. You're positioning yourself well, certainly. What's the message that they're clearly buying into?
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that I say. I think the challenge sometimes with the schedule like ours, I think, is getting your guys to see the bigger picture. Even though we have some juniors this year, it's not a team that has a ton of experience playing together. We've gone through some changes, and we lost 4 starters from last year. So it's a team that's had to kind of learn on the fly, and I think that's one of the big challenges. Is kind of seeing February when you're back in November and you're sitting there at 2-9, and you got guys who newer guys who have never been on a team that's lost before, because by virtue of being a good player, they've been on good teams, and getting them to see that. This is kind of part of the plan, and the guys have been resilient, and they've kind of bought into, I think, what we've tried to show them, that it's tough to do that until you actually do it. A lot of times it's just words, but once we started winning a couple in a row, I think they really kind of saw that all our hard work and our challenging schedule really paid. Was kind of paying the dividends now, and we've been able to win 8 of 10, and I think. They've kind of grown with each other more so than anything that we've done special. I think it's just that they've kind of got more comfortable and learned our roles better, and see that they can be a pretty good team and have a chance if we play really well next week.
David Johnson leading the way, 17.7 points a game. JoJo Woodruff a tick over 17 points. Both guys hauling in some rebounds. Of course, they're more guard orientated. George Carl, is it Carl?
Carl, yes.
Yeah, Carl.
Yep.
12 points a game, 8+ from both Rob Ehlers and then the freshman Josh Bosworth. This team, the schedule you played, the way you guys have played of late, granted you're 2-2 with a loss against Husson in there and a loss against Colby Sawyer. Is this team positioned nicely going into the tournament? You got Thomas at home to start things off.
Yeah, I think, like at this time of year, every game is going to be difficult. I mean, I don't know who's positioned well. I think... like I said, it was definitely an up and down last couple of weeks here. I mean, we played some of the better teams in the league and kind of did okay. Did not play well at Husson. They played very well. Played okay against Colby Sawyer and kind of lost that game in the second half, and they again did a good job coming back, and all credit to them. And it was nice to get a win heading into the tournament yesterday against New England College. And I think Thomas is a team that we split with. Obviously, they got a coaching change there, so there's a little bit of an unknown. They have they're kind of very similar to us in that there's not a lot of size. They rely on their perimeter a lot. They have some good really good guys off the dribble. It's going to be challenging. Obviously we'd rather be at home. It's the first league home playoff game we've ever had in the NAC. The year we were pretty good in 2011, there were only 6 teams and we got the bye. So we've never hosted a game, so I think we're excited about that. So I think we're just going to get ready to play whoever's in front of us, and how anybody's positioned I think comes down to 40 minutes. I think it matters who shows up to play and who executes and what the matchups are and all that stuff.
Talking to Joe Krapinski, sorry, brain freeze. Krapinski here, talking Vermont basketball in the sense of Lyndon State and positioning themselves. Of course, Thomas has got to come to you guys. That's a bit of a haul, to say the least, but that's why you get the home court advantage. You certainly have a lot of D3 experience. As we mentioned, you played at Springfield. You then were an assistant coach there. Was that under Charlie Brock?
I split one year with Mike Thulin. I was a student assistant. Actually, I didn't actually play. I was with the program for when they went through a transition from Division II to III, under Mike Thulin, and then worked for Charlie for a year. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I've been fortunate to have quite a few good people to learn from. Mike Griffin at RPI, and Tom O'Shea at St. Mike's, and so I've been, like I said, I've been lucky to be around a lot of people who know what they're doing and have kind of helped form my style into what it's become.
What's the schedule look like for next year? How's this team positioning for next year? I know that you got a week ahead of you at least, but still.
Yeah, we're definitely still formulating it. A lot of these games will come together here, after the season. We do try to schedule at least one Division I team a year if we can. I think it's good exposure for the school, and it's and again, that's one thing. I think we played at UVM this year, and they're going to be in the mix to win the America East, and we played in front of 2,500 people over there. I think one thing we can tell our guys, and going forward here is that, and no disrespect to anybody in our schedule, but we've already played the best team we're going to play all year, and I think mentally sometimes that can be a good thing, and they have the confidence that. We had a little success in that game. We have some. You can have the confidence to play against whoever they're going to put in front of you here in February and March. Sure. So we're still still trying to hash it out, trying to work on some dates and whatnot, and trying to find a good tournament to go to if we can. Try to take a trip. We haven't been on a trip for a while, so we're hoping to do that and kind of get us out of the region a little bit, to see some other good teams in other places, and again, same thing. Scheduling home games are always hard here in Southern Canada, so we're still still working on that.
Yeah, Southern Canada is probably about right. At least you're not in the Maritimes in Maine.
That's right.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I find it fascinating, the mentality you have. Some coaches don't have that mentality. It can only reap the benefits, I'm sure. I know you guys are itching for a breakout season. You just never know when that might happen. As always, we give our coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think one, in terms of this conversation, I think we just found the formula that works for us. I mean, there's certainly a lot of ways to do it, and I think everybody has to find something that's good for them. And the other thing I would really say, and anytime I talk to a group of people about Division III and our level, is how good it's become over the last 10 or 15 years. And I think a lot of people, and I'm sure as Division III coaches, we've all been recruiting kids who don't want to hear from us, and without really realizing how good the level has become. And I think everybody across the country, if you can get to a tournament game at some point this year, whether it's a conference tournament or a national tournament game, and just to see, if you've never been, how impressive the product is and how good the players are all across the country, I think I would encourage you to do that, so that you have a better understanding of what it's like to be at a place like ours.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, Coach. Good luck in the NAC tournament, and we'll see how the Hornets do, and look forward to seeing how you do next week.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Take care. Coach Krapinski joining us here. A quick little reminder, while that tough stretch at the beginning, since mid-January, they've only lost 2 games. They went on a 6-game winning streak, lost 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 here in the last 4, but they're got a big game against Tufts coming up. We'll see how they do. You never know. You might see the Hornets in the NCAA tournament. We're going to get to break again coming up. We're going to talk to stay in New England, go women's basketball. Talk to one of the teams that may be on that bubble, struggling in a what now seems to be a pretty challenging new MAC conference. Melissa Hodgegden from Wheaton will join us. Still ahead, Wisconsin Stevens Point's Shirley Edgar. Ohio Wesleyan Stacy Lobdell will talk about their big win over DePaul. Baruch, Mley Joseph will join us, and of course, Milwaukee Engineering's Brian Miller as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have a question for us or our guests, tweet them at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. And then don't forget, also email us Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. When we come back, we'll talk women's basketball at Wheaton. Melissa Hodgegden on the Hoopsville Hotline right after this.
Every season starts with a hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 21st through 22nd in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, hosted by the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, and I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Sunday, February 23rd. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. One of the biggest shows we've had, according to our analytics, in a while. We appreciate you all tuning in as we talk bubble teams here and getting ready for the final week of the NCAA Division III tournament, or I should say the final week of the season with the NCAA tournament on the horizon. Teams positioning themselves, trying to get into the NCAA tournament, whether it be an at-large bid or an automatic qualifying bid. We talked to a lot of teams like Rhodes women's basketball and Emory basketball and Lyndon State basketball trying to position themselves. Are already on the bubble, etc. We have teams up ahead who are trying to get into the NCAA tournament in any way, shape, and form that they can. And, of course, one team who's on a bubble that may have already popped. That's all coming up here on Hoopsville. If you have any questions for our guests, make sure to email us Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or ask us questions via Twitter at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville. Also on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Interaction with you is certainly what's important. If you have any questions about what you think your team may be doing or how you think your team may be positioned, certainly ask those questions as well. We will get them answered throughout the show. Last guest was in New England. We will stay in New England, and we will go to a little bit south and east and head into Massachusetts, where we'll go to the Hoopsville Hotline, presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship Weekend in the city of Salem, Virginia. And on it is Melissa Hodgegden from Wheaton. The team is 19-6 overall, pretty much near the coast of Massachusetts. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Dave, thanks for having us. We're excited to be part of this for the new MAC and Wheaton College. And, yeah, we're kind of located between Boston and Providence, so like 45 minutes from the ocean.
Yeah, so right in the target zone for any really good nor'easter that comes up the coast.
Absolutely, as long as it's not the University of New England nor'easters.
That's funny. They were down here in the Baltimore area surrounding 2 nor'easters.
Funny.
Yeah, I found that hysterical. I'm like, perfect timing, guys. You drove through one to get here, and you're going to drive back into one.
Right.
Hey, 19-6 overall, 14-6 in the conference. The NUMAC has been wacky this year. Let me start there because of its wackiness. I've seen Wellesley up there, you guys up there, Coast Guard's been up there, Smith is now up there. Babson has been threatening. What gives?
Yeah, NUMAC is a really unique situation. We have 11 teams in our conference this year. 7 make the tournament, and we play a 20-game league schedule. So it's jammed our non-league games. So we were lucky to play a really strong Trinity team and a strong Roger Williams team, but there's only 5-game flexibility. So we play 20 league games starting November 20th, I think was our first one. And our league is already so competitive, very well scouted. We have, veteran coaches. We have a coach in our league that just hit 500 with Pat Glispin and 400 with Naomi Graves. I told them, use my Maine lingo, I'm an original Mainer, and just said that's a wicked lot of wins. It's admirable. So we're an extremely competitive league, which the conference tournament coming up, we're the 2nd seed. We were preseason picked 7th.
Yeah.
Babson and Smith were tied for 1st. So, I'm really proud of our team for just focusing every day, getting better every day, and then you end up the number 2 seed playing a team in MIT that beat us here already by 1 point in a phenomenal contest when we were 12-0. So anybody can beat anybody in any day in this league.
You guys, you said pick 7th. That's why maybe it really jumped out at me the season you guys were having. You started off pretty hot, especially out of conference. Quickly doing the math, you won 12 straight. Before MIT, as you mentioned, tripped you up by 1. That was the start of a 3-game losing streak and 3 out of 6 before you guys righted the ship. But then the season was rough. Babson and Wellesley got you in the last 2 games. This seems like up and down season. Has it felt like an up and down season?
I'll be honest with you, I've been coaching for 20-plus years, and this has been one of the most enjoyable by far. I have just a group of young women that get it done on a daily basis, whatever challenge before them, whether it's neuroscience, calculus, basketball, taking away baseline, front in the post. They just come in every day and face every challenge. And when we were 12-0, I didn't even realize it. And they never got caught up in that. And we had a big week that week after Christmas. We faced a very good Roger Williams team that I think was 7-1, which was a big non-conference game, and then we faced Coast Guard, who was 7-0, and then we had MIT on that Thursday and Babson on that Saturday. And I think a very young team. We have 2 seniors, but neither of them start. They're phenomenal leaders, but that was a long week and a big stretch for us, and we kind of got worn down. We got surprised maybe by MIT, but we've learned a lot from those losses. 5 of our 6 losses have been by a combined total of 15 points, so an average of 3 points a game. And my sports information director tells me every time, this is going to pay dividends in the tournament. This is going to pay dividends in the tournament. I was like, Sean, we got to get to the tournament first. And now we finally locked in that spot in the NUMAC tournament because every day, I don't take anything for granted by any means.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you also had a mixture of teams in there that you guys faced. Certainly your alma mater in Springfield is in your conference action. The irony that I just talked to a Springfield alum and now talking to another one is not escaped me in any way, shape, and form. But you guys went out there and at least tried to maybe challenge yourselves. Your SOS is about a 5-16, not counting what's happened this week in any way, shape, and form. Do you feel comfortable that if you do lose the conference tournament, you can't get the AQ, that you can get into the tournament? Or is this one of those where, we can't gamble on anything, we've got to go full bore for an AQ?
Well, the only bubble we know is bubble gum. We don't talk about that. When we're 22nd in the country, everybody was blowing that up, and our team is just, this conference is so challenging, and nobody on our team right now currently has ever even made the NUMAC tournament.
Yeah.
Because 6 out of 10 teams used to go, and we finished 7th. So, we're really just focused on beating MIT right now. I know you talked about multitasking in your office. My office is set up with 3 laptops and MIT film on all 3 of them, and breaking down film, and our team, being prepared to get better tomorrow and Tuesday and play MIT in our home court for a NEWMAC playoff game, which hasn't happened, in a long time in our facility. We were fortunate to beat Springfield in the NEWMAC tournament in 2008, and we beat MIT on that Wednesday before that championship game on that Sunday. And then we were in the following year and lost a really tough game to Babson when Nikki Wordman was a freshman. And then the following year we lost at Babson in the semifinals, and we haven't been back since. So, I really feel like we just have to win on Wednesday, to be honest with you.
This is a team that's got 2 seniors on it, but nothing against them. It's not a senior-led team, at least in the stat column. You have Lauren McClellan and you have Sarah Fitzgerald, who have played in almost every game of the season, but it's really it's juniors and sophomores leading the way. It's Abby Brickley at 14.5 points a game. It's Kylie Shoemaker averaging a double-double at 14+ and nearly 11 rebounds a game, which is pretty spectacular for a sophomore. Rebecca Arnon at 10 points a game. Laura Pierce at 8.5 points a game. So while you have a couple seniors on the squad, it certainly looks like this team is built for the future.
Yeah, and Dave, I know you've been around basketball long enough to know that if people don't accept their roles, the ship's going to sink.
Yeah.
So even though it doesn't show up on a stat sheet, when I have 2 seniors that aren't even team captains, the team voted on that. We have our program's very transparent. Like, I'm a big believer in talking stuff out, and I think that's going to help them in life too. And so when that all happened, the captain voting, and we talked about senior roles, they bought into it, and they want to leave this program in a better place than when they came in. And that will reflect on them, and it already has reflected on them, even though it doesn't show up in a stat sheet. But, we're excited. We just have really good kids that have accepted their roles. Of course, 2 weeks ago, like every team faces, we lost a big role player, a sophomore, who comes in, plays 8 to 10 minutes, but a special role to an ACL injury. And I know every team has to face those challenges, and then it shows, what you're truly made of.
This is a squad, again, going into the conference tournament, something as you pointed out, you guys have not been in since 2010. This is certainly important. You get a home game. You're going to play MIT. If you were to handicap this conference race, though, and who comes out on top, can you pick, considering the carnage and the craziness this year?
It's, the word on the street, it's been anyone's game. Yeah. And I think I was at the MIT WPI game yesterday because basically that last regular season game came down to who gets the last slot.
Yeah.
And so last year the number 1 and 2 seed got buys, and then we expanded to 7, so the number 2 seed, which is us, has to play Wednesday now this year. And we were going to have to play the winner of MIT WPI, and it could have gone either way. I think MIT was happy to have it at home, and I said to my former assistant who was at the game as well, I just said, geez, I don't want to play MIT or WPI. And then I was like, well, for that matter, I don't want to play Babson or Smith or Springfield or Coast Guard. So, that's how our league runs. Like, just any given day, anybody can beat anybody, and there's so many wonderful rivalries among these student athletes. A lot of them have played AAU together. I have a lot of kids out of region, as does MIT, but they've developed rivalries, over the past couple years. And like you mentioned, our team's young, but like an Abby Brickley started since she's a freshman, and Kylie Shoemaker started, and Rebecca Arnone started when they were freshmen last year. Laura Pierce was a redshirt kid who's a point guard who's just truly come back off an ACL, MCL, meniscus, and it doesn't show up on a stat sheet, but she really, runs the team and is the floor general and the coach on the court. So we don't know what can happen, but we have to take care of our own business, and that, therefore, my office is a mess.
Yeah, so. Well, and justly so. The men's side of the NEWMAC has certainly become competitive, certainly become one of those, I wouldn't say NCAA powers, but you expect at large teams, you expect deep runs maybe from some of these teams. Of course, MIT getting to the Final Four a few years ago certainly set the precedent there. On the women's side, it seems like you've been knocking on the doorstep of maybe doing something similar but can't bust through. I know the Northeast is tough, especially the NESCAC with Tufts, Williams, Amherst, to say the least. But what does this conference need to do maybe to finally open up the floodgates, as it were?
Yeah, well, I think it happened last year, Dave. Smith got in, and they had to travel to the University of Southern Maine, and being a Mainer, that's a hard place to play. The back gym, and Bruce whatever his name is that used to be on Channel 6 does the games, and you know, Smith blew out the doors, like from the tap to the end, and I think that really made a loud statement for the new MAC that, hey, you know, there's two teams, and there should have been two teams the previous year. So I'm assuming this year, you know, we have a good shot at getting two teams in, and I would love to see it, but I'm pretty sure all the new MAC coaches are really just focused on the new MAC tournament right now, and aren't getting too far ahead of themselves.
Of course, it's wacky to see Smith 15-10 overall, 15-5 in conference, which meant they were 0-5 outside of conference, and Coast Guard and yourselves at 19-6, but you're a game back of Smith. It's just a wacky look at the new MAC this year, to say the least.
Yeah, and Dave, you know, that's a good point. I was talking with our athletic director about, you know, Smith's a team that has that playoff experience. And, you know, it was their mission this year to win the new MAC because they sensed Sarah Collins was gone and Nikki Wordman was gone and all the Babson kids were gone. And that was their target. That was their true focus. And they had some good non-league games and they didn't win them. But once they got into new MAC play, I think they really just refocused and said, you know, this is what we're here for. And they've had a strong finish. But they've had some really close games, too, that could have gone either way. Our game here, you know, was right down to the wire. We had a huge turnover in the last 6 seconds, and that's, you know, that's the inexperience of my team, I think, you know, showed at that moment, and their playoff experience showed. That was the difference. So, like my SID said, you know, those hopefully will pay dividends for us coming up.
Well, on Tuesday, you get the honor of playing MIT, who you mentioned tripped you guys up by a point earlier, and then you guys beat them by 7 about 11 days ago. And not that I want to get into X's and O's and specifics, but what do you guys need to do against MIT? What's the message to the team in the locker room?
Yeah, it's our, you know, it's about us. It's never about who we're playing. And I think for this team, like you mentioned earlier, it's great. We got the honor of playing at home. MIT is a very good team. They're focused. They're going to be well coached and have us very well scouted. But you know, I want us to focus on Wheaton basketball, not playing MIT basketball. And Wheaton basketball is, you know, we have a mantra, effort, focus, attitude, and worrying about the things we can control, because you can't control the officials, as you saw in the Duke-Syracuse game last night. You know, you can't control the opponent and what they're doing, but we can control and take care of what we need to take care of. You know, I think we'll come out victorious, because that's how it's panned out, you know, in a lot of the games, 19 of the games anyway. And like I said, the 5 of the 6 losses we had were by an average of 3 points. So I think we're right there, and you know, every coach is going to say this about their team, but I love this group, and if anybody deserves it, you know, they do. And the 2 seniors really have just led the whole way through very selflessly, and I think that's a great message.
Before I let you go, I got to ask you. You look at your roster, and there's Massachusetts, New Jersey, Vermont. You cheated and got one out of your old neck of the woods in Booth Bay Harbor, Maine. But you look at some. You got a California kid and a Utah kid. I think it's California or it was Colorado. Colorado.
Yeah.
Sorry, the other state out there that starts with a C.
Yeah, exactly.
How in the world do you recruit those kinds of kids, or do I dare ask, were they the kind who were at a prep school in New England?
No, they're authentic, and I used to coach Division I before I came here, and at Holy Cross, which is another outstanding school. So I was a recruiting person and recruited all over the country and all over the world. And when I came here, I realized, and you're going to love this line, that it's tough to erase that NESCAC label out of New Englanders and East Coasters. So these kids I would love, they'd be like, well, I want my daughter to go to NESCAC, or I love your school, but I'm going to go to NESCAC. And I was just like, well, I'm going to go to places that haven't heard of NESCAC. And I found a handful. We have a girl from Colorado as a freshman right now that just decided not to play in August, and she might play next year. And we have another girl from Colorado coming in next year. And, you know, I recruit really heavily out in the Southwest and in the West Coast, because they don't know what the NESCAC is.
I also think you maybe just want an excuse to go skiing. In better conditions than New England.
So
better
I
conditions.
in Maine and have bad knees now, so probably not skiing.
I was going to say, if you go out west and ski, you're going to love it. Unfortunately, it's not Sunday River, but it's better. Maybe. Well, Coach, thanks so much for coming on the show. I certainly appreciate you taking the time to do so. Impressive team, 19-6, but more impressive the chaos in the new MAC. I'll certainly be keeping my eye on how that all shakes out, and hopefully we'll maybe even see you in the NCAA tournament as well. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I'd like another hour to do this, but I'll try to summarize it quickly. I just want to, like I mentioned, give a shout-out to our team and the new MAC, but this team absolutely made every day their best day. On the court, over a 3.0 GPA, won an NCAA Spotlight Community Service Poll, and just are a great group of girls, but Wheaton's a special campus. Faculty, student population, and staff here are phenomenally supportive of the student-athletes. And lastly, our President Crutcher, and his wife, Betty Neal Crutcher, are retiring this year, and they have been a phenomenal support to me and our program. So I just want to kind of give them a shout-out because that's a really important piece that makes Wheaton College such a unique, special place.
Well, very good. Well done. Well taken advantage of the last word. Congratulations on the season so far. Obviously, been improving on number 7 and finishing number 2 is something to hang your hat on, to be sure. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Dave. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Hang in there.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Coach Melissa Hodgegden joins us here on Hoopsville. We appreciate it taking the time. We're going to keep things rolling around here because we got Stevens Point coming up next. If you got questions for us or our guests, make sure you use Twitter at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville. You can also use email, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. We certainly would love to hear from you and find out what else is going on in your mind. We're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. When we return, we'll jump out to Wisconsin and talk women's basketball with one of the best. Shirley Edgar will join us to talk about her team and also talk about getting ready for the Final Four and whether her team, when its first sub-20 win season in a long time, can get in the NCAA tournament and try and get back to its home court for a championship. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the NABC. We'll be back right after this.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on a Sunday night, February 23rd. Appreciate everybody taking the time to join us here. It has been a lot of you, and we certainly appreciate it. We know there's a lot of you out there, so if you have questions for our guests, like we already have one for our final guest of the night, use our Twitter account at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, or use your email account, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. That's how you can interact with us. We certainly hope you will try and take advantage of that. It is best when you interact with us because we can certainly have just a little bit more fun along the way. We have plenty more guests ahead and certainly plenty more to talk about, especially teams on the bubble, and so we will continue to march along, as it were, and we're going to jump from Massachusetts to Wisconsin here. It's an easy trip by a plane, but it's an even easier trip if you're on Hoopsville. So we'll go to the Hoopsville hotline presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship Weekend. in the city of Salem, Virginia. And Coach Shirley Edgar joins us from Stevens Point. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Appreciate it, Dave. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on the show. First and foremost, not to rub salt in the wound, but the first time you guys have had a sub-20 win season, at least in this point of the year, since 07 at 16-9, 9-7 in the conference. I have a feeling, knowing you kind of saw this season coming, considering how much you guys lost, but also because how tough the WIAC is.
Yeah, we like to be able to compete, hold our head high, and we feel like we play in one of the top 5 toughest conferences in the country. We did lose a lot with Sam Barber, Brooke Allen, and Liz Altoff, but our cupboard wasn't bare, Dave. We had some, key players coming back and really felt we could build around them, and either our youth, some key injuries, just haven't allowed us to reach the number of wins we would like to have, or any coach would like to have at this point in the season. And you have to attribute that to Whitewater and Oshkosh, who are clearly commanding some respect in our league. And we will be ready to compete this week in the conference tournament, and hopefully be able to string a couple of wins together and being able to play in the big dance here in another week.
Of course, Whitewater and Oshkosh ahead of you guys. Whitewater goes through the conference undefeated, 16-0, 22-3, which is fascinating considering when I saw them out in Stevens Point, I'm sorry, not at Stevens Point, but I saw them out in Vegas. I was quite sure Coach Carrillo was going to kill her team. And then Oshkosh sitting behind them at 13-3, then you guys, then Superior. As a result, you do have the home game against Platteville coming up here on Tuesday in conference action. I got to ask, though, lost 4 of the last 5. Whitewater, Platteville, Oshkosh, and Stout, with the win against River Falls, sandwiched in the middle there. Does that concern you at all that the season has ended on a bit of a rough note here?
Absolutely. When you get to this point in the season, you want to be playing your best basketball. And we just got outplayed when Whitewater came into Berg Gym, and then we had that bye on Saturday, and we had to sit and wait. And our kids just really weren't competitive down at Platteville when we lost a week later. And then we were able to right the ship a little bit with River Falls a week after that, but we're not playing very confidently right now, and that is a concern. The good news for us is that when we lace them up again on Tuesday, everybody in the WIAC tournament, the 6 teams, we're all 0-0. And obviously we're a little bit disappointed being 16-9 at this point. And even if we win the next 3 in the conference tournament, we'll still fall short of that 20-win mark for total number of wins. And it's been a long time, as you alluded to earlier. But we feel confident that we'll be able to get the ship righted and compete come Tuesday night when Platteville comes back into Berg. And if the bracket plays out the way that it is laid out, it's something that we did last year, being the number 3 seed, playing at home and going over to Oshkosh and then going down to Whitewater, and we had success with that last year. Obviously, we have a different team, as does Oshkosh and Whitewater, but we feel like it's something we've been able to do, go on the road and win and not be the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. But we definitely have to play with a little bit more poise and a little bit more confidence.
Of course, Platteville is a team that beat you guys twice, but they still have to come to your place due to the rest of their schedule. You guys have a 554 SOS at this point in time. Certainly that will improve. 1-5 against regionally ranked opponents. That will probably change as well as we move down the road. Actually, it will change because of the game against Oshkosh this week. Do you have any confidence that, let's say you make the semifinals at least, that you have a chance at at-large? You know the system pretty well.
No, we have 9 total losses. There's no way. Even if we would have been successful yesterday over in Menominee and finished the year at 17-8 and getting to the finals of our conference tournament and being 19-9 19-9, I still don't think we have a shot. I don't think we're a bubble team whatsoever with 8 losses or with 9. I mean, our conference is very, very difficult, but I've been through the rigors of that national committee, and it's looked down upon when you have you get up to that 7, 8, 9 losses. I don't see it happening. Now, will I say no? We won't come.
Yeah, exactly.
If we get an at-large
we don't want
bid,
to take the bid.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you're going to deny the at-large bid. Thank you, NCAA. We don't need it.
Right.
Okay, yeah, we could see that happening. Now, I mean, this team's led by Miranda Tyler, 12.5 points a game. You have a whole host of players that scoring 7 or 8 points a game. So obviously, it's win or go home, for lack of a better description, for this team. You've got Platteville on Tuesday. You potentially have Oshkosh to follow. What's the message in the locker room, especially after this bit of a skid here at the end?
Well, we'll figure that out tomorrow. We're going to get back on the court and go through a practice and prepare. And like I said earlier, everybody's 0-0. The whiteboard is white, and if we want to play in the NCAA tournament, we know exactly what we need to do. We have to win 3 games this week, with 2 of them being on the road. At least one of them being on the road, and I'm pretty confident with Whitewater being the number 1 seed and going through our league 16-0. That's a rare, and I think for sure if we're fortunate to get past Platteville and past Oshkosh, we'll have our hands full with those Warhawks, and we know that we've got to get that W in order to get into the NCAA tournament.
It might have been the last time they'd done it. It was in 2011 when you guys went undefeated, but don't quote me on that. Anybody out there who might want to stick me on the wrong info. Coach, when you look at Whitewater, who lost all their games out of conference, you look at Oshkosh, who's lost all their games in conference, meaning the 3 losses that each team have. Do either of these have a good chance to return to Berg Gym, or I should say Quandt Fieldhouse, to play in the NCAA Final Four in Stevens Point?
Well, I think anybody that gets into the national tournament has an opportunity to get to the Final Four. It's 1 game at a time, 1 weekend at a time, and you have to have a little bit of luck on the way. And Whitewater was there last year and had that thrilling finish against Amherst, and then ended up losing to DePaul in that national championship game, and I know that has motivated them this year as it should, and want to return, and then for us to be hosting and have it here in our conference and to be able to get back and play in it. I'm sure every team that is playing in the NCAA tournament from our league wants to get back to Quandt or back to Stevens Point and play in Quandt.
Speaking of which, you were at Hope to get a gist of what they did to host the Final Four. You guys will host it this 1 year before the women will get on the same cycle as the men. How are you guys? How are the preparations coming along? What did you guys learn at Hope that you're trying to replicate or even improve upon?
Well, we're a month out, and we're excited to welcome 4 teams into the community of Stevens Point, and we've been working very diligently with the planning process and upgrading our facilities and just getting everything set to be able to put on a quality championship.
You guys only got this 1 year again to get the tournament kind of on sync with the men's tournament, and that was really across the board, the NCAA at all. With how they changed the hosting. Did you guys consider or did you put into bid for more years?
Nope, 1 year.
And what was the reasoning?
We wanted to make sure we could do a good job with that. We've seen, with my experience being on the committee and then attending other championships, it's always tough that second year. Yeah. I think it's a little bit easier on the administration because we know the planning team knows what to expect and they've been through it, but it's a little bit harder on the fans to come out and support and that in that second year. And so we really want to make sure that we're enhancing the student athlete experience and rallying our community behind this whole championship. Curiosity
gets me a little bit here. you guys, last year when I saw you at the Final Four, we had a discussion about the turnout and the support of women's basketball at the Final Four, especially by other coaches, and how the D1 Final Four seems to be the focus for coaches, and the difference in the men and women and how they do that. Have you made a push? Have others made a push to try and make the women's Final Four maybe a destination for coaches and make it a bigger deal than it sometimes seems to come across?
The Division III championship, Dave? Boy, we have tried to reach out to coaches to attend the championship here in March, and I just think with budgets and destinations, Division I likes to keep it someplace warm, and coaches just aren't able to get out of those other responsibilities that they have at the Division III level, and if they could choose to come to Stevens Point where it might be pouring snow on March 20th, 21st, or go to Nashville, Tennessee where it might be 65, I think they're going to choose to spend their money and go that Division I route. I would love to have a great turnout of Midwestern coaches come and take in the championship, because I think it's a great tournament, and great basketball is being played regardless of what four teams are there representing their institutions for a championship. And so I would, as we spoke last year, I'd love to see more coaches attend the Final Four.
Well, and even on top of that, great camaraderie for coaches.
Absolutely. I just don't know. I don't know if we'll ever be able to make that push and have Division III coaches attend the Division III championship.
That's too bad. I know on the men's side it's something that they all look forward to, and there's a huge turnout. After being to Hope and experiencing the women's Final Four, it deserves the same experience, to say the least.
Yeah, and I think it helps on the men's side too, Dave, that it's in Salem, and everybody knows it's in Salem, and then once they experience that, they
want to go back.
Exactly. They want to have that same experience.
I can't disagree with that mentality at all. That's a good point. Coach, if you're making a push for people to get to the Final Four and attend it, even if their team's not in it, I know you've kind of said it already, but give me a push.
We'd love to welcome you to Stevens Point, Central Wisconsin, weekend of March 20th, 21st. Games are Friday night, 5 and 7. Games on Saturday, 4 and 7. We're really looking forward to having a great championship.
Absolutely. Well, great, Coach. Thanks so much. I know it'll be a quant, which will certainly be a great experience as well. Thanks for coming on and helping us a little bit here and handicap the WIAC, but also your chances of the NCAA tournament. I certainly wish you none of the best. I love chatting with you and love seeing you in Hope last year. Good luck the rest of the way. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, I appreciate the time, and the WIAC is a great conference to play in, and hopefully this conference will be well represented in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, Coach, on a heck of a season. I know it was not the 21 season, as it were. It still has a chance at it. We wish you the best to get to that point. Good luck in the conference tournament. We'll talk soon.
Okay, appreciate it, Dave. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Take care. Shirley Edgar joining us from Stevens Point. 16-9 on the season, 9-7 in WIAC play. Certainly hasn't been prototypical season for them, but again, they lost a bit and they're recovering a little bit. And I can't. Shirley Edgar knows how to coach and knows how to recruit. You can't imagine that they're not going to be back on top here soon. I got a question about University of Scranton. If they win the Landmark Conference tournament, #1 in the region, will they host? I'm going to assume this is men's basketball, Charlie. And I think Scranton is, yes, in position to host. I don't see a reason, considering they were #1 in the region. That being said, the scuttlebutt and the frustration in the Mid-Atlantic region that Cabrini fell behind Scranton. Nothing against Scranton in any way, shape, or form. But the frustration that Cabrini fell behind Scranton has been something I've heard quite a bit this week. We reached out to get word about that decision and what it was based on, and all we got was basically that the National Committee Chair does support the committee's decision, because it turns out the Mid-Atlantic Regional Advisory Committee had Cabrini 1, Scranton 2. The National Committee moved them to 2. That's according to a lot of sources. And it's interesting. That being said, I don't think it changes the conversation. Scranton, even being 2 in the region, would probably host the opening weekend. The men have the advantage over the women if the women were to be so lucky. I'm quickly looking at the women's scenario. Women are sitting 2 as well. This will be a case where Scranton men's basketball will get a chance to host over women the first weekend, because if you don't know, in Division III, they alternate weekends. In even years, the men's basketball team gets first rights to host the opening weekend. The women have the rights the second weekend. So should Scranton men and women both get a chance to host the opening weekend, men will get the opportunity. Women will have to go on the road. That usually means a team who normally wouldn't host will end up hosting that pod featuring Scranton's women. The next weekend, if both teams happen to get to that point, then the women will host, and if the men were capable of hosting, they will go on the road to a team who probably wouldn't have hosted in any other normal circumstance. In odd years, women have the first weekend, men have the second. I hope that makes sense. So, Charlie, I would say Scranton, both men and women, should they win the Landmark Conference, and maybe even if they don't, depending on how things turn out, especially if they lose in conference in the title game, both teams probably in position to host, though men will host the opening weekend. Women would have that right the second weekend. Hope that answers your question, Charlie. Let me know if it didn't. You can ask us questions and more on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or using the hashtag Hoopsville. Also on email, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/hoopsville. Going to take another break, and we're going to talk about the biggest upset in women's basketball this season. Ohio Wesleyan defeating DePaul last night. DePaul losing in the first time in 59 games. A 58-game winning streak comes to an end for the defending national champs. Something I didn't think would happen until maybe next year. Why that's an impressive win for Ohio Wesleyan, and why that could be the worst thing possible for every other team in the country, to have DePaul frustrated just a little bit that they have lost a game. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Well, when he come back, Ohio Wesleyan battling Bishops women's basketball coach Stacy Lobdell will join us here on the show. We'll be back right after this.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on a Sunday evening, February 23rd, as we get ready for the last week of the regular season. Conference tournaments in action, of course, and along with, conference tournaments in action already and starting, we should say, by a week from tonight, when we have our special show, 6 to at least 10 p.m. Eastern Time, a week from tonight, we will be talking about the 84 teams that have automatically clinched their bids into the men's and women's basketball tournaments, and then we'll be talking about the 23 on the women's side who are hoping to get in, who we think may be getting in the 21 on the men's side, hoping for the exact same thing. If you have questions for us now or in the future, or for our guests, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. One of the big stories of the week, we've had a couple of these throughout the season, some big upsets, but this one probably caught everybody maybe a little bit off guard, only because it's so impressive by what happened and how they did it, and that's the Ohio Wesleyan women's basketball team defeating defending national champs and #1 DePaul, who had a 58-game winning streak and probably looked like they were going to win another 58 with ease. But Stacy Lobdell and the Battling Bishops said otherwise. And Coach Stacy Lobdell joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline, presented by Division III Men's Basketball Championship Weekend in the city of Salem. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, absolutely. Congratulations on a, well, I would argue a historic win, only because I don't think anybody had DePaul losing until maybe next season. I looked through some of the highlights that were thrown online. You had a lot of hustle from your team. You had a lot of prime opportunities. There was one play in the first half, ball's going out of bounds, player comes flying in, saves it from going out of bounds to a 10-foot open shot for her teammate. You hit free throws. You had the crowd into it. It seems like everything was going your way.
Definitely. I think we really played probably the best half of basketball we could play in the first half. All the plays that you just mentioned there, we made hustle plays. I believe we shot 54% from the field in the first half. So, it was senior night. It was a great atmosphere. And, again, the first half, we only had 6 turnovers, and I think we've only done that one other time this season. So we started off the game really well, which obviously gave us confidence going in the locker room at halftime.
You look at the box score, you point out shooting so well. I mean, you shoot 54%. There's not much you can do about that. Overall, you guys shot that for the game, by the way, 54%, 27 for 50 from the floor. They shot 38%. You guys, the outside shooting wasn't much of a factor. Not many free throws in this game. I find that really interesting. You guys got to the line 8 times and hit 6. They got there 12 times and played 8. By definition, that seems like it was a pretty clean and fun game.
It definitely was. I think it was, like you said, both teams, I think, played really well. We played probably more fundamental in the first half, and then they really came out. And I think, I say settle down, but DePaul always plays settle down, as it seems. Mm-hmm. And they really kind of, came back. And, of course, we said we have an 11-point lead, but that doesn't really matter. They're going to come out and they're going to make their run. And I think the biggest difference was this time around, when they made that second run at us, we were prepared for it, and we were able to answer despite having, I believe, maybe 16 turnovers in the second half or maybe 18 turnovers in the second half. We just continued to fight. We continued to make hustle plays, and we were able to make that, the offensive play when we needed to, despite the turnovers.
Yeah, I was going to say, they came roaring back on you guys, 37-27 in the second half. You had beaten them 38-27, interesting enough, in the first half, and that was the deciding factor. Did it feel at any point like you guys just had to buckle the seatbelts and hang on and hope you could hold off the ball?
I think we did, probably around, I can't remember the exact time, but it was around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, something like that. They had went up, and we were down 5 at one point. Mm-hmm. And there I thought, you know what, this is where we're going to say, well, we played them close again, and maybe we have one more shot if we can be fortunate enough to play them in the conference tournament. And that thought honestly lasted a few seconds. And then I think we first forced the turnover the very next possession, and that kind of gave us some life. And then we made offensive plays when we needed to. We got 2 or 3 key defensive rebounds when we needed to. And like I said, it was just kind of our night, and maybe that was symbolic because it was senior night for us.
Yeah, you guys actually had were down 5, 64-59 with 1:22 left and held them off the scoreboard the rest of the way. That is saying something, to say the least. Of course, a made layup, a couple free throws, another layup helped you guys win the battle. Of course, DePaul had already won the conference, 15-1 now. You guys are, though, right behind them at 3 games. Denison behind them at 4. You get the 2 seed, certainly locked that up with the win against DePaul. How important was it get the 2 seed so that worse you see DePaul in the championship game, but also so you can get games to come through your place?
I think it's a great opportunity for us again to host the quarterfinals at our place, to play at home again, especially after coming off such an emotional win on a Saturday. Now we don't have to worry about traveling. We get to host, again with our men. Our men play right after us. So it's going to be an exciting atmosphere for both women's and men's basketball here Tuesday night.
I was going to say, you got a lot going on. Coach DeWitt's got his team in there, too. And both teams are playing pretty decently, though I'm sure if I was in Mike's office right now, he'd be throwing things. Have you stayed away from his office, was what I should ask you?
Yeah, he usually comes and visits my office. I don't go up there too much, but
he doesn't want to have anything to do with what his videotape is showing him right now. You're in your 3rd season here with the Battling Bishops. This is a team that was 20-7 back in 2010. You took over, and you've had some rough years: 15-12, 9-17, 8-18. Now you're 17-8. Are things finally really heading in the direction you'd hoped them for? Have you finally got, for lack of a better description, control on what you want to do with this program?
Most definitely. When I was fortunate enough to take over the program, we had graduated before 3 seniors that were great players, and we were kind of starting over with all freshmen. We had some, upperclassmen my first year here that really didn't have a lot of playing experience. They were great people, great players, and really tried to work hard, but just didn't have the playing experience. So we kind of started over. So now here we are. Those freshmen are now juniors. Yeah. And our 2 seniors, in Tamara Londot and Julia Grimsley, have been with us through everything. They were sophomores my first year. And really, we just have really worked hard. We've prepared. We've worked on the little things. Our schedule, I feel, really has prepared us, especially for that type of game yesterday. Yeah. Over the 3 years, I was just looking back, waiting on your call here, and we have played over 7 teams in the top 25 or that have received votes in the top 25 in the last 3 years. And I think that really makes a difference coming in now, playing DePaul, who's number 1 in the country. Obviously, we have to play them twice in our conference. But, we've seen those. We traveled to Hope last year, and everyone said to me, why are you traveling to Hope? Why would you want to do that to your players? And I said, well, you know what? We might as well prepare them. Yeah. We're not supposed to win. We don't have anything to lose. So let's go see what it's all about. So we had the opportunity. Coach Morehouse was a great host, runs a great program, first-class program. And, for our players to really understand what level you want them to be at, I think they have to be exposed to that. So that's what we tried to do in scheduling those top 25 teams.
You look at your team, though, it's probably one of the most interesting stat sheets I've seen. First off, nobody scores in double figures. The closest is 9.8. That player, Lanice McGray, it comes off the bench, does not start, hasn't started a single game, hasn't shot a shot from outside the free throw or the 3-point line. Also, don't put her on the free throw line. It's not good for the Battling Bishops. I'll be gentle. Sarah McQuaid, 9.3. Emily Julius, 8.6. 6.9 from Julia Grimsley. Kristen Henning, 6.8. 6.2. 6.2. 5. This is the... I don't know how to read into it, as it were. You don't have a prolific scorer. You don't have somebody who is the defenses have to key on. You have a lot of players that you are willing to play, and everybody seems to contribute on every facet of the game.
I think at the beginning of the season, going into it, when we really weren't sure of our identity as a team yet, we didn't have that, scorer that you say 2 or 3 top scorers or 2 or 3 top rebounders that you can go to every time. And I think we kind of looked at that as a negative at the beginning of the season. And then once we started, accepting our role and understanding, really, we've been talking this entire season about being productive when it's your turn. I think we really turned that into a positive. So now I can look at our stat sheet, and I really look at it as a positive, saying, you know what, on a given night, if you were scouting us, how would you really scout us? Because you really don't know. And maybe some coaches look at that and say, well, you don't know what you're going to get on a given night, but talking about our bench points and Lenise coming off the bench, it's really nice to see in the box score. For example, Saturday, we had 44 points off of the bench. And that's not to say that our first 5 aren't productive as well. It's pretty balanced.
Yeah.
So we've turned that into a positive and said, you know what, everyone's minutes count. No matter how many minutes you get, just be productive and play within your game and contribute to, our overall goal. And that's really what they've bought into since we've started winning here and, through the rest of the conference. And on a given night, maybe it's not someone's night, but then we always have balance and we can go to someone else. And everyone's been contributing, and that's really, really what's been the method that we've been using.
Well, and you're willing to go at least 10 deep on your bench, which is something else that jumps out at me as well. Certainly this is a building for the future. The win over DePaul is a huge win for the program, to be sure. You go into conference play now. Who will you play, by the way?
We're playing Oberlin Tuesday night.
Okay, so Oberlin will be, of course, that game postponed earlier this season, so I hope the weather holds for you guys. When you look at this, let's just say you get to the championship game, DePaul decides to return the favor, so you're looking at an at-large situation. Do you have confidence that this is the team that maybe can get an at-large bid quickly in case anyone's not sure? Where are you? I'm trying to find my cheat sheet. You're not regionally ranked. Certainly the win over DePaul could help change that, but then again, you have DePaul, Hope, Thomas More sitting at the top of the regional rankings. Do you feel like you could get into the at-large, or are you going to have to beat DePaul, or whoever beat DePaul, to get into the NCAA tournament yourself?
Well, I think realistically, just given what you said with all of the other teams ranked in our region already, it would probably be safe to say that we would need to win the conference tournament again. Although, since I have the opportunity, we have really been playing well here the last part of the season, and especially in conference play. And we felt like we have competed in every game, even the DePaul game, even though they beat us by 15 or something the first time. We're ready to play and we're ready to compete at that level. And I really feel like our conference, we play in a great conference. It's a tough game every night out, and we've played in the top 25. But realistically, we're probably going to have to win our conference again. But it would be great to see, somebody like us get an at-large bid, because I feel that we can compete. There's no doubt about it. But, right now we're just focused on Tuesday night and taking it one game at a time.
Yeah, sure. I can understand that entirely. So what's the message to the team in the locker room? Having won this big game, you said the advantage of being at home at least helped settle this team down a little bit. But what's the message to the team having come off that big victory and heading into the conference tournament now?
Well, I think I'm glad we had a day, to kind of enjoy it and celebrate it, because no matter what, you can't take that away from us. It is, history, and it was a huge win for our program. It was a huge win, I think, for our conference. It was exciting for everyone. So they had the day to enjoy it, and we actually got in here tonight, and we talked a little bit about Oberlin and just talked and really said, okay, we have work to do now. We play a game on Tuesday. We're heading into the conference tournament, and in our minds right now, we're taking it one game at a time, and we want to just improve on the things, break down film, and go back and make sure that we are able to compete starting Tuesday night, and so we're ready for any opportunity that might come our way.
Well, congratulations on absolutely the biggest win in Division III's women's side of things, to be sure, this season. Maybe the biggest win in a few years. Congratulations to your battling Bishops on what you guys have accomplished this season. A polar opposite turnaround from last year, to be sure, and heading into conference tournament action. Tell Coach Mike DeWitt, get out of your office. He's got to figure things out on his own. And good luck the rest of the way. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Once again, we just appreciate all you guys do at Hoopsville, and really would like to say thanks again to the university, President Rock Jones and Roger Ingalls, our athletic director, all the support that they've given us. It's an exciting time here at Wesleyan. We just had renovation of our practice gym. Edwards Gym just got a new weight room 2 years ago, and now we just were able to receive a donor for a new fitness center here on campus. So I hope everyone, continues to follow Division III hoops and we appreciate all the support that you guys give us, and looking forward to an exciting tournament.
Wonderful. Thank you, Coach, so much for coming on the show. Good luck, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
All right. Thanks again, Dave. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Coach Stacy Lobdell joining us here on Hoopsville. Ohio Wesleyan, the biggest win of the season over DePauw, 65-64 in a great game at their place. They go into the NCAA, they go into the NCAC conference tournament now. Will take on Oberlin as they get ready to maybe rematch against DePauw should they keep winning in the championship game. We wish them luck and congratulate the Battling Bishops on a big win. Certainly more ahead. We've extended our show at least 30 minutes. We'll probably go longer. Up ahead still, we'll talk Baruch women's basketball, talk to Coach Joseph on whether he thinks his team is safe to make the NCAA tournament should they not do so well in conference play. We'll also talk to Milwaukee Engineering men's basketball coach Brian Miller. They have already lost in their conference tournament. They are one of the first teams on the proverbial bubble, but that bubble is a little bit tenuous. We'll talk to Coach Miller on whether he thinks his team can make the NCAA tournament after their first 20-win season in program history. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have questions for us or our guests, please tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or Facebook us at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. You're listening to Hoopsville, and we'll talk to Coach Joseph from Baruch coming up next.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Every season starts with a hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 21st through 22nd in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, hosted by the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday evening, February 23rd. Closing ceremonies being shown on TV. Daytona 500 finally after 6 hours, but who cares? We're talking about Division III basketball, and you've joined us here on Hoopsville on one of the biggest nights that we've had of listenership. We certainly appreciate it. Probably the biggest since our 12-hour plus marathon back on January 30th, and all part of the Hoopsville fundraising project, which once again, we humbly thank all of you who contributed. We're wrapping things up here, got a lot on our minds, and talking bubble teams or teams who are trying to position themselves to make the NCAA tournament, as we have one last week here of the regular season, all conference tournament action. Some tournaments have started, and some tournaments are about to get started, and so we're kind of going across the country and talking to a number of teams who may be trying to jockey for position and get themselves in the best position possible. So if you have questions for our remaining guests or for ourselves, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email email us at Hoopsville at d3hoops.com, and coming up Facebook, also on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Should also mention, coming up, have a wonderful story about a Division III student athlete at York College of Pennsylvania. Talk about her challenges coming to school and being a student athlete, and then returning and having one heck of a career as a result. That's all coming up, and we want to thank those at York for providing the story for you. That is coming up here on the show. But in the meantime, we're going to go back to the Hoopsville hotline, because joining us will be another team who certainly is in position to make the NCAA tournament, but probably doesn't want to leave anything up to the committee. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship Weekend in the city of Salem, Virginia, is Mley Joseph from Baruch. Team is 19-7 overall, but they're in a commanding 13-3 in the CUNYAC. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate you taking the time, sir. First and foremost, this is a squad that I know you. We saw you in Vegas to see how, to challenge yourselves, as it were. First and foremost, that experience and who you guys played, a win over Southwestern, a loss to Ohio Northern. How did that prepare you guys for the rest of the season, despite coming out of the Ohio Northern losing 3 more games in the next 4?
Well, yeah, it was a great challenge. I mean, what it did for us is really kind of help us understand, who we were at that time. Just to, obviously it's the league sometimes can get a bit easy, and so we just need to challenge ourselves and play some teams that we think that we might face in the NCAA tournament. So, obviously you was there and you got to see that. That Ohio Northern game was a great game, and it was very challenging for us. But, it was still, it felt like almost 6 months ago. Yeah. So at this time of the year, it's always trying to draw back, to your experience a little bit and trying to remember, but we've had some games in conference that kind of was some learning curves as well. We lost to Hunter, we lost to Lehman, and those games was kind of like a wake-up call type games for us, to say that it's still wide open if you don't take care of business, but part of it is the journey, and learning from your experience, and hopefully, like at this time of the year, many coaches are trying to get them to use your experience to put you in position to winning a championship.
You started the season winning 7 of the first 8 that you played, then you lost 4 of the next 8. You were 4, or really, I should say, 5 of 4 and 5 is what I'm trying to say over the next 9, and then you're in kind of more in a stretch there where you've won 8 of the last 9. Lehman being that one loss there in the middle. You now are in, you're on top of the conference. I should say you're second in the conference by a game. Staten Island up on you by 1, so you're the 2 seed going in, and you've got Brooklyn. How important is it to take care of business, starting with Brooklyn and getting to the championship game?
Yeah, I mean, they always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times, right, in the same season. And Brooklyn is a well-coached team, and Alex Lang has done a good job with them for the last 3 or 4 years. They're almost been like our rivals or sneaking up on us. And so it's going to be really important to kind of go back to the film and kind of getting the team to remember how we defeated them, game plan, executing the game plan, and I think our team is starting to be, we've had some up and downs this season, but this is a time of year that all of us coaches is just trying to get our team to play like the best basketball possible. And I really feel that about this team. They understood, like I said, the journey, what we've been through. We've been through some adversity. We learned from it, and it's going to be really important to have 2 really good days of practice to walk in and play. When we go in and play Brooklyn College on Wednesday.
Brooklyn's certainly important. You've got others ahead of you that you got to take care of. Obviously, you want to win in your automatic bid, and what I get at is you want to, since you came there, you've had plenty of success with this program. You've won 6 conference championships. You've gotten you've been to. Well, you won 7. I'm sorry,
right,
I can do math.
We've gotten the last 6, and
yes.
But, the target gets bigger and bigger, right?
Right. Well, and if you've been to the NCAA tournament twice, advancing to the second round, you sit here now at 19-7, 13-3 in the conference. Obviously, you want to win the automatic bid and make the NCAA tournament, but you've got a decent SOS. Do you think there's any chance that you guys can get in as an at-large, considering you're second, I think?
I think we're second
fourth
in SOS in our region.
Yeah, you're second in SOS, fourth in the region overall. Montclair State, York, and Christopher Newport ahead of you. In theory, you will probably be sitting on top of the regional rankings when it comes to at-large bids.
In theory, like you said. That's the big word. But history tells you that it's probably almost impossible to happen. So we can't put ourselves in position and thinking that we'll get a at large. We got to just go out and win out. We're in position right now. If we was to win out, we would probably continue to sit at number 4 in the region, because I don't think there's much that can happen to those Montclair, York, and Christopher Newport. They've had a awesome regular season, and they continue to stay on top. So really 4, 5, and 6 is what the rest of the region is really battling for. But our, even though our SOS, and we've done a good job of, reaching out and finding quality schools to play, I just don't want to leave it in the hands of anybody else. We just got to control our destiny.
I'm talking to Mley Joseph, a women's basketball coach at Baruch, 19-7 overall. Coach, you got quite a bit of talent on this team, but kind of like the coach I was talking to at Ohio Wesleyan, you have some players in double figures, but it's not like they're 15, 20 points a game. Sheridan Taylor nearly 11, Alicia Ulmer at nearly 11, Ayanna Abrams at 10, 9.2 for Frances Henry, Kristen Podlovitz at 7.5 points a game. You have some players that certainly are keys, but there's nobody who jumps out at you. You go deep on your bench. You're willing to get players to produce where you need them to. Is that a key for this Bearcat squad?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking this the whole year, and I think they're starting to buy into it now. I think early in the year they wouldn't buy in because it's kind of like they're competing for minutes.
Yeah.
But at this time of the year, the biggest thing I'm telling them is trust us. I think we've done this enough. We know how to get there. So if they trust us and follow the game plan, it's about using your depth. And kind of riding on that. We don't need, we just need everybody to take care of their job or do their job. We don't need any one of those players to be spectacular, but if everybody's having a good night, then we'll be fine. And if people are not stepping up, then we need, a Sheridan Taylor to hit a big number like a 20 and 10, or a Frances Henry, Ayanna to come up big. But imagine if everybody can just hit the numbers that they're hitting now as the average, then we're in good position to kind of continue to roll.
Can you beat Staten Island? Can you win this conference AQ?
Absolutely. I mean, it really depends on, if we can get this group to continue to play with the passion and the fire that they're playing with. Yeah, I mean, it's ours, but we have to show up and we have to play to what we're capable of doing. And the games that we've lost is we've never played to our capabilities. But, right now, this is the time. This is where all the coaches make their money.
Yeah, that's true. This is where the I don't remember the term I'm looking for, brass tacks. What do you say? I've asked this of all the coaches. What's the message to the team then?
Well, right now we've been just trying to preach to lock in and just focus on trusting us. It's like I said, for me, I felt like it's been an up and down year. We've had some adversity, some things we've gone through as a team, but I really believe if this team trusts us, continue to be coachable and just listen, I mean, we'll get them to where they need to be. They just got to continue to do what they do. People play their role. And believe in that we could continue to make a run, and hopefully this run don't end just in the CUNY tournament, that the run could continue to build, and maybe we could make a run, for a few weeks, in the NCAA tournament.
Well, congratulations on the season so far. Certainly impressive, to say the least, that you guys were able to at least weather that storm in the middle and right yourselves and be playing the way you're playing right now. Good luck on trying to get to the NCAA tournament, winning the AQ, or at least getting in as an at-large. You never know what may happen. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Go Bearcats.
That works. Big game.
I appreciate it, Dave.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Coach.
Okay, thanks.
Coach Mley Joseph joining us here from Baruch and the CUNYAC. They got a big win over CCNY today. They will play Brooklyn coming up on Wednesday in the first round of the CUNYAC tournament. They're hoping to make the at-large bid as well. We'll see how the Bearcats do as we progress on this week. We got one more guest on the way, plus plenty more to talk about. If you got any questions for us or our guests, at D3Hoopsville is your Twitter account, or use the hashtag Hoopsville. Also, email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Coming up, we're going to jump into men's basketball, talk to Milwaukee Engineering, why they are already on the bubble and why, despite a 20-win season, it could be a very, very difficult opportunity to get in the NCAA tournament. We'll hear from their coach, Brian Miller, about whether he thinks his team has a chance to get into the NCAA tournament, all coming up here on Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting out of the Baltimore area. We appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Sunday, February 23rd. If you're watching on the archive, certainly appreciate that. We'll have a couple scheduling notes coming up after this next interview. Also, don't forget a special piece about a YD3 student coming up here on the show out of York College of Pennsylvania. It is worth watching. We certainly hope you will take the time to do so. If you have questions for us or our guests, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us at hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We've been talking about teams who've been on the bubble, as it were, and that is something that more and more teams will end up being on, certainly by default. But it doesn't mean it gets easier, and it certainly doesn't mean there might not be teams who are sitting there as we speak. One of those teams, Milwaukee Engineering, the Raiders, are 21-5. 16-4 in conference, but have already lost in the conference tournament, so they are officially on the bubble, as it were, in the Pool C at-large criteria. And Coach Brian Miller will join us here on Hoopsville, on the Hoopsville Hotline, presented by the Division III Men's Basketball Championship Weekend in the city of Salem, Virginia, coming up in a month, and Coach Miller joins us. Coach, I know you certainly didn't want to take that loss. You certainly didn't want to put yourself in position as you are right now. So what's the message to the team as you guys sit for a week?
Well, right now they're headed off to final exams, which is just the way things happen on the calendar by us. We're a quarter-based school, and so right now they're just heading into exams. I do think, being 8th ranked in the region gives you a chance, but I think we probably needed to be higher to be considered for an at-large. And had we won that game yesterday, we had a chance to climb over a couple teams. I know a few other teams in our region that were ranked had some losses, so that would have helped our cause.
I was going to say, I mean, you sit there with what is a 493 SOS. That will tick up just by default. You don't have any games against regionally ranked opponents. You were sitting 8th. Granted, teams ahead of you will come off the board just with the AQs. So there's always a chance you could become part of the conversation. But did you have a feeling that you really needed to win this conference, or at least get a couple wins in the conference tournament to better position yourselves?
I thought we needed to win it, Dave. I'm on the committee this year for the first time and going through those numbers, and there's so many teams with such a high SOS in there, from the CCIW and from the UAA, and it's just, significantly higher. They're in the .598 and like Wheaton, for example, is in the .605 range, and it would have been hard to climb past that. And it's just a year that's tough to improve your strength of schedule. Our league went from division play to playing everybody twice, and so now it's 20 conference games, so there's not a ton of non-conference games to build that up.
I was going to say, you don't have a lot out of conference. Who you did play, you played Westminster, Fontbonne, took on Knox and Laverne. You came out of that 5-0. You also played Occidental and got a win there. So I should say 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0, right.
So you certainly went and did the job out of conference, but the conference beat you guys up just a little bit. Quickly about the game, we got an email earlier about it. Wondering, because it's not like this is the first time you guys lost to Edgewood. I think you guys lost to Edgewood earlier in the season, back on December 5th, 66-58. What is it about Edgewood that caused so many problems this year?
Well, I think that they match up well with us. First of all, for a 21-win team, we certainly didn't feel like we could just show up and beat anybody. I mean, we only outscored our opponents in league by 3 a game. Every game was tough, and our team was very tough in these types of games, being 5-0 in overtime on the season. And we won 3 games, Dave, where we hit a 3 late in the game, once against Edgewood with .4 left in the game to send it to overtime. And so we've had some luck and a lot of mental toughness to win these close games. So even though Edgewood's record wasn't as good as ours, we knew they matched up well with us. And, the types of things that we try to do offensively, they had some players that could take that away. So it was a tough matchup. And last night was just a night that we missed a lot of free throws, and uncharacteristically.
That was giving me my next question.
Yeah. And, it's a tough way to go out. We've been, I think we're 71% on the year as a team, and I bet if you looked in just the last 2 minutes, we're more like 85% because we won all these close games. And but last night it didn't go in, and that that's the way it goes, I guess.
School record 21 seasons, finished second in the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference. How important is it for you to have gotten that record, and how important is it to kind of drive that home to the team? Listen, we might not make the NCAA tournament. We didn't win this conference, but hey, we have done something nobody else has done, and we can build on that.
Yeah, that's huge. I started here 10 years ago, and the program's history was 22% wins, and we've been 62%. And Dave, I'd love to sit here and take all the credit, but we have a wonderful university that the year I came there built a $30 million athletic facility, and so the pieces of the puzzle were there. And certainly there's other great high academic schools that win all the time, places like Amherst and WashU and whatnot. So we knew that it could be done, and slowly we've built that up. And a couple of 3 years ago, when our seniors were freshmen, we got our first regional ranking in a 19-win season, and we had a player who was the COSIDA Academic All-America of the Year, and that started to get us noticed a little bit, and this team to be able to get 21 wins was, I think very impressive because again, we don't blow anybody out. Our stats are very close to one another in terms of defense field goal percentage, offensive field goal percentage, and it's just the ability to win tight games. And I have a senior point guard who's a phenomenal leader, and I think that was the key in those situations.
Yeah, I was going to say, Austin, is it Stuck?
Well, Austin Stick's our sophomore scorer.
Okay.
I was referring to our captain, John Cording, a point guard. Stick hit a lot of late-game heroic shots for us this year that carried us. He hit a half-quarter to win a game. He hit a three with .4 left to beat Edgewood the second time we play him. To send it to overtime, and then we won. And he hit another three in another game to send it to overtime. So he's kind of a big shot Bob, if you're referring back to the Bob Horry days and with the Lakers and whatnot.
Steck, 19 points a game. He had 2.2 assists a game. That's what jumped out at me, along with Cording's 4.8. Those two guys certainly dished the ball well. Cording also had 10 points a game, 10 points a game for Connor Patterson as well. This conference always tends to get one team in. They do marginally well in conference tournament action. But you guys now have 20 wins. Marion will probably have 20. Well, they have 20 wins. They'll have more than that by the end of this. Lakeland at 19 right now. Aurora at 18. Potentially one of those or both of those could have 20 wins themselves. How important is that as this conference evolves, as you point out, into the division, now into an overall look? And how important is it to maybe improve this conference in what is a very tough Midwestern region?
Yeah, the region is very tough. And now that we're going to that 20-game format, I think it's going to be really tough for us to get two. We 3 years ago, two got in from our league. Concordia, Wisconsin got an at-large, and I think Aurora maybe got the tournament that year, or Benedictine did. And 3 or 4 of us that year had gotten regional rankings. That was sort of an anomaly. It was a year when we were still in division play, and all of us had gone out. For example, we beat a couple YX schools, and Benedictine and Aurora had beaten 2 or 3 CCIW schools. So all of us were able to do some things to really help that SOS. Now it's maybe not quite as possible with the fewer games. I guess we're just going to have to schedule tough in those 5 non-conference games that we have. So, yeah, that 21-win season is going to go a long way to propelling us. Certainly the young guys that we have, and we have a lot of good underclassmen, certainly I'm going to believe that we can, achieve any of the goals that we set going forward.
Well, congratulations on the season. Good luck on trying to make the NCAA tournament. You just never know. It could happen. And with that being said, how do you keep the guys kind of fresh, practicing on the just in case?
Well, yeah, right now for the next couple of days we're not. I'll be on that regional call Tuesday and probably get a better feel if there's any chance at all to be optimistic. And either way, we would have been taking a couple of days off for final exams. So right now there's no reason to stress over it. And I think I'll get a better feel after that call, and after the regionals report to the national committee, we can get maybe a feel for whether or not we have a reason to be optimistic. I certainly don't want to be that coach who sends everybody home after finals because we have a week off of school and then got to find a way to get them all back to camp.
Yeah.
So we'll try and get an answer to some of those questions before they take off. And so I should be able to do that before Wednesday comes along.
Quickly, before I let you go, since you are on the committee, I certainly don't want answers as to where everybody's positioned, but I'm kind of curious just the message that's been come down and the mentality of your committee. You guys have WashU ahead of Illinois Wesleyan for varying reasons. I'm not questioning it. I can understand it despite the head-to-head. But what is the message? Is SOS that important that it has to be a major factor to outweigh wins and losses, or head-to-head? I mean, what's been kind of the protocol that you guys are under the direction of?
Well, I would say our committee felt one way, and the national committee came back to us after that and made the SOS more important. So a single game head-to-head, as happened between a couple of the top teams in our region, did not mean as much to them as a differential in SOS. I think they generally talk about .03 is considered significant. Now, I don't know how many losses and wins equate to significance, so that's been the hard part to debate. But yeah, certainly the national committee came back to our regional one, and you could tell how important the SOS was.
I know this is your first year, so this I can't ask you, is that new? But on the flip side of that, from what you're gathering from your comrades who have been on this committee, is that a frustrational point of things that the SOS is being so highly weighted, or is that just kind of par for the course from what you're hearing?
No, I think there's a level of frustration with some folks. I know there was a team last year in the region that went 3-0 against someone and still weren't ranked ahead of them, and they were in the same league, and that seemed odd, and I don't know what all the math was with that. So there certainly was a lot of frustration and debate over that type of thing. But it seems that strength of schedule thing is very strong and heavy, so it's been educational for me so far. I sit on that committee and do a lot of listening, and there's several members who've been on there longer and then also been part of the national committee before, so it's good to learn from those guys.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I know you have a lot of work ahead of you, obviously this week with the final regional rankings and then the ultimate final regional rankings coming up on Sunday as well. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Again, congratulations on your season. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, our players end every tweet and every team huddle with a hashtag RGOD, and that's just their Raider Gang or Die phrase, and certainly they don't mean die, but
sure,
it's just a rallying call for our guys, so I'll throw one of those out for the Raiders and wish them good luck on their finals.
Very good, Coach. Well done. Good luck. You never know what might happen, as you know, and we'll look forward to chatting with you down the road.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you having us on. We really appreciate the national recognition and appreciate your show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach, for the kind words, and good luck.
Bye now.
Brian Miller joining us from Milwaukee Engineering. Team is 21-5. Lost in the quarterfinals of the NACC to Edgewood, maybe in surprising fashion since they were the number 2 seed. They will now sit on the bubble for a week, trying to figure out if they will make the NCAA tournament or not, but they do have finals in their trimester situation, and we'll see how that all shakes out for them. By the way, congratulations to Vassar men's and women's basketball teams. We've had them both on the show. They will both be hosting the Liberty League semifinals on Wednesday. Congratulations to those two teams, especially the men's team, which has certainly turned things around. A couple programming updates, and then we'll have one more piece of video I'd love to have you watch and then wrap up the show. A reminder that we'll be on the air special times on Thursday and Friday from the Salem Civic Center for the ODAC men's and women's basketball tournaments. Thursday is the women's tournament. We'll be on the air about 11 a.m. Leading you up to that tournament, we'll have plenty of coaches on from there. We'll also talk to some national coaches as well as we look at the midweek portion of the tournament and then late week. And, of course, Friday we will lead up to the men's quarterfinal action at the Salem Civic Center as well. We will be there all day Thursday and Friday and probably some of the day on Saturday, depending on how other tournaments progress. And we will give you some snippets and interviews from that as well. Next Sunday, a week from tonight, we'll go on the air at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, probably be on the air at least until 10 o'clock as we try and tackle who is in and who is out of the NCAA tournament. We'll know the 42 teams on both the men's and women's side, total of 84 who will be in the NCAA tournament. We'll then try and figure out best we can and answer your questions as to who the 20 men's teams hoping to get in and the at-large bids will be, and on the women's side, the 22 teams we hope will be in as well. And so lots to discuss. That show starts at 6 o'clock. We will then be back on the air a week from Monday, shortly after the brackets are released. Talk to the teams who made it in on bubbles, talk to teams who may be hosting, talk to teams who may have missed out, and of course talk to the committee chairs as well. That's all coming up in the next 8 days here on Hoopsville as we get closer and closer to the road to Salem, the road to Stevens Point on the men's and women's side of things. Should also remind you, we heard last week, the men's game will be broadcast on championship game will be broadcast on CBS Sports Network. What I do know is that the CBS Sports Network game will be at 5 o'clock in Salem, Virginia. The semifinals the day before and the NABC All-Star game will be streamed by NCAA and Turner Sports via web stream on Friday and Saturday. The championship game is still up in the air as to whether that will be streamed live. That is the last I heard. I do know we are working at D3 Hoops to possibly have an audio broadcast of that once again as well. Certainly plenty to figure out between now and then, but just a heads up on all that. The games will be broadcast on NCAA and Turner Sports for the women's side, as they always are as well. If you have any questions for us in the last 15 or so minutes of this show, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. But before we go, I really wanted to show you this piece of video. It is a Division III student athlete at York College in Pennsylvania, in talking about the challenges of being a student athlete, being away from home, etc., and how she overcame some really difficult challenges. This was a wonderful piece of video put together there at York College, and in particular by Brittany Alvarado. I hope I said your name correctly, Brittany, I should say. It's a wonderful insight into a student athlete's challenges, and I think it's worth watching. So if you don't mind, please take a moment to watch this and appreciate the story. We'll be back after the segment ends to wrap up the show and look ahead. So again, if you have questions for us, we'll answer those. But here's a look at a student athlete, a true YD3 moment at York College of Pennsylvania.
From Rhodes, Maryland, number 20, Kelsey Murphy.
Basketball has always been a huge part of my life. My whole family is kind of like a basketball family. I wanted to be just like my sister when I was growing up, and she's 5 years older than me, so I got to watch her play and wanted to do everything she was doing. So I think her originally, and then, you know, as I kept growing, my dad became more a part of pushing me a little more, doing a little bit more than just the practices I had. I think the first time I really fell in love with the game, it was when you hear that noise of like a ball going straight through the basket, that swish noise, that still gives me chills. When I started playing my freshman year at Good Counsel, that was when I could start to kind of be more myself through basketball, just out on the court. And you know, the friends that I made on that team kind of helped me become more outgoing and more talkative and all that, and basketball kind of helped me grow into my own person, and I was able to find out kind of who I was through basketball in high school. Transition from high school to college was definitely tough. Off the court, it was especially hard. I was very homesick at the beginning of my freshman year.
You know, she's very close to her family, and I think she struggled with being away from home. And so we had many talks about that. And she's only like an hour and 15 minutes from York, but you know, for some kids, it's a struggle, and she definitely had a tough time with that.
For me to feel the way I did, something bad had to have happened, or, you know, something had to have happened, but that wasn't the case. It came kind of out of nowhere. You know, we were having a great season on the court, school was going well, anything, you know, on paper everything was going well, but I started lacking motivation to kind of do anything, and my focus was, you know, when can I sleep and when can I nap today? There would be nights where I would be in so much emotional pain that I didn't even understand where it was coming from, that I would be in, you know, physical pain, like I would hurt because I was so upset.
As a parent, you always feel you can solve your children's problems, and this is something, you know, we couldn't solve on our own. You know, I think as a parent, you always hope for two things: their health and their happiness. And she was struggling with both of them. You know, we needed some help.
And, you know, I would call my dad, you know, just bawling to him in the middle of the night, and, you know, he trying to be like, what's wrong, what's going on? And I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't have anything to tell him, but I just felt miserable, and I just all I wanted to do was sleep. And, you know, I kept remembering, up until that point, my dad could always fix any problems I had. And I think that really tore him up because there was nothing he could do. He would say, there's no magic words I can say that'll make you feel better. We went down to Amherst and we lost to a great team, and you know, that was the end of our season. And I remember, instead of feeling kind of upset, which I should have because this was my favorite, you know, my favorite game in the whole world, I love this sport, I was more relieved. I remember when we got home, you know, back to York that weekend, I was back to my bed, back to not going to any classes, and next thing I know, Coach Whitman is walking in my dorm room.
I knocked on her door and told her she needed to get out of bed and get down here, and we sat out on our front porch and talked for quite a while. But you know, Murph's been through a lot, and she's a really special kid, and is becoming a young woman, and it's been so rewarding to see her, you know, grow through the 4 years that she's been here at the college.
I just remember telling her that if I didn't go home and, you know, figure out what was going on and try and get healthy, that I didn't think I would survive the rest of the semester.
I was afraid of losing her completely, and you know, I thought that being at York College was probably the best thing for her, and we had to find a way to, you know, to get her help and get her better, and find a way to get her back here on campus. And you know, but at the time when everything sort of came to a head, you know, she needed to go home and be with her parents and get the help that she needed.
So we took her home, and you know, she needed to be with her parents. We removed her from school, and that was good. She was with her parents, but I think the problem was her life was up in York. Her friends, her teammates, her coaches, everything was up here. And I remember the first thing she said to me before she even got out of the car, got home, was, as soon as I can, I'm going back to York.
I think leaving home again was definitely something I was afraid of. You know, that was the place where I came and, you know, got kind of myself back together and back to, you know, a happy state. And I think leaving there was something I really did fear. It was really important for me to kind of, you know, prove to myself that I could get back and do it and not fall in this same path, and kind of stay on the right path and be happy and, you know, focus on my education and basketball and, you know, get everything back together.
And little by little, week by week, you could see her become more of herself. You know, her positive attitude returned. The phone calls that I would get at night used to be about what went wrong yesterday. Now the phone calls are about what she was going to do tomorrow and the next day. Her thinking was more forward.
My dad helped me tremendously through the whole thing, and, you know, I don't think he knows. He probably knows, but he helped me tremendously day in and day out. Coach Whitman, Coach Cooney, I think everyone knows how good of coaches they are, and they see the success that they've had with their teams and their program, but they don't, a lot of people don't see exactly what they do for us, you know, behind the scenes. They have gone above and beyond any regular coach's, like, expectation.
Well, when you're a coach, I think that you're a kind of a mom away from home, and you know, these kids are on their own, and you know, they're trying to grow up, and sometimes, especially through college, the college years, I think they can encounter a lot of difficult things. And you know, and Murph was, you know, just one of those players who I think needed just a little extra attention, and not that she wanted the attention, but you know, she needed a little extra care, and I certainly was willing to, you know, to give that to her.
Getting that from your coach, who, you know, in my mind, I'm letting down, and I'm, you know, leaving the team and leaving school. You know, she's reassuring me, you know, you're gonna get back here, and you know, you're still gonna be my 2 guard. And their main focus was, you know, for me to get healthy, and it wasn't, you know, what's the best for our team right now. You know, they focused on more, you know, if I was healthy and how I could get there.
She's, you know, academically, she's done really well. You know, sometimes it was a matter of just getting out of bed and going to class, but now, you know, that she has overcome a lot. You know, she enjoys going to class. You know, she gets excited when she gets a good grade. She shares that with me. And to me, that means more than anything, you know, related to basketball, that she's doing well in the classroom. just doing so well in life in general. You know, I want nothing more than for her to be happy and succeed and do well. You know, not just on the court, but off the court. You know, is more important to me.
Just to see your child healthy and happy is all the difference in the world. You know, someone very dear to me gave me a sign. No smile is as beautiful as the one that struggles through tears. I have that in my office, and I think back about my daughter and what she's gone through. I certainly would never wish that on everyone, but to see where she is right now, after what she's gone through, makes this year even so much more special.
I'm thankful for how I'm looking at life now and how it made me realize how many people I truly have that are there for me and how good of a support system I have, especially when things, you know, aren't going well. I think everything that I went through just reassures me that I made the greatest decision of my life to come to York. You know, I'm lucky enough to be a senior with these other 3 girls that have just, you know, been there for me since freshman year on and off the court. And this team, 1 through 16 of us, like, I love all of them. And this is the first time I've been on a team where, you know, we have chemistry on and off the court, and I'm with them all the time. And I love these girls to death, and I would not want to spend my senior season with any other group of girls.
She's our glue that keeps the team together, and you know, Murph is just one of those special players that you know, all these seniors are special, but you know, she's the person I've really leaned on this season. You know, kind of keep the team together this year.
Would you say Kelsey Murphy's back?
Yes, she's back.
I'm on top of the world, I'm on top of the world, waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to slide to hold me in for a while, take you with me if I can, been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world.
Congratulations to Kelsey Murphy, Murph's fight there at York College. That's a powerful story, in my opinion, for many reasons, but especially the whole goal of a team, the whole goal of a really good coach, and the whole goal of a really good program and athletics department at York. I certainly know that athletics department well, and they are good people up there, and they should be proud of that story, to say the least. Murph, congratulations. She's a terrific player. This York women's basketball team will be one to watch. We'll see how the tournament progresses for them, obviously, and see how they get positioned, but that is a wonderful story. And thank you, Brittany Alvarado, once again, for sharing that with me, and those of you out there who shared it with me as well. I really do appreciate it and look forward to learning more about, not learning more, but watching Murph continue her fight through the rest of the season and that senior class. That is one special senior class. That's going to wrap up Hoopsville here tonight. Hope we ended on a good note for all of you out there. I want to thank you all for tuning in. It was a very successful show tonight. We will be back on the air, like we said, with a special on Thursday from the Salem Civic Center at the ODAC women's tournament, and then men's tournament on Friday. We'll be on the air at 11 a.m. roughly. Tune in to Hoopsville on Twitter and Facebook for more on that, but we will be on the air roughly at 11 o'clock leading up to the start of the women's games on Thursday and the start of the men's games on Friday. Don't forget, a week from tonight, we'll be on the air from 6 to 10 and maybe beyond, trying to figure out who's in the NCAA tournament, where teams may be playing. Do our due diligence before Pat Coleman, Gordon Mann, and myself gain absolutely no sleep and lose absolutely everything else into Monday, trying to figure out who's going to make the NCAA tournament and where they may be going. And then a week from Monday, we'll be on the air after the brackets are announced. Talk to teams who may be in, teams who may have missed out. Talk to committee chairs as well about the decisions that were made. I think tonight might be an insight, in the last couple of nights, an insight of a lot of our questioning coming up next Monday, especially on the men's side of things. In the meantime, if you have questions for us, you have guest ideas, whatever, Twitter at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. Email us at Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com and on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We can tell you Thursday's show will be a little bit more women-centric. Men's a little more men's-centric, I should say, on Friday. So Thursday a little more women's-centric and Friday a little more men's-centric as we broadcast again. Hoopsville on the road at the Salem Civic Center, part of the ODAC Championship Tournament. We want to thank those at the ODAC in the city of Salem for helping arrange this, and we're looking forward to it as well. So if you got questions for us, even when we're not on the air, make sure you tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Let me thank our guests from tonight. They included Rhodes women's basketball coach Matt Dean, men's basketball coach at Emory Jason Zimmerman, Lyndon State men's basketball coach Joe Kinsky, Wheaton, Massachusetts women's basketball coach Melissa Hodgegden, Wisconsin Stevens Point women's basketball coach Shirley Edgar, Ohio Wesleyan women's basketball coach Stacy Lobdell, Baruch women's basketball coach Mley Joseph. Sorry, Coach, and Milwaukee Engineering men's basketball coach Brian Miller. You'll notice we had a lot of women's basketball coaches on the show, talked a lot about women's basketball tonight, and we had one of our best nights on the air. I want to thank all of you for that opportunity. Again, back on the air Thursday about 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Back on the air Friday about 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Back on the air next Sunday with Hoopsville. We will be on the air at about 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Back on the air the following Monday, that time to be decided. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook for more information. Of course, go to d3hoops.com. We have conference tracker pages up so you can track what's going on throughout the conferences around the country. For all of my guests for d3hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches, thanks for tuning in to Hoopsville tonight. I certainly appreciate it. It was a good day for me, and I thank all of you for being a part of it. You guys have a good night. Have a good rest of the week. We'll certainly see you back on the air here on Hoopsville throughout, and we'll see you online as well. Good night, everybody.